Hello. Hello. Been a long time. When I say a long time, it's been like a week and some change, like 2 weeks ish. Ish. Did you guys miss me? You don't need the answer. I know you missed me. I'm great. I'm awesome. And I have been VTubing for 1 year, which I did not plan this stream for that. I was going to make a post, like, oh, my streamer anniversary VTubing thing is like coming up, and I'm not going to do anything for it. And then I looked at my schedule. I'm like, oh wait, I am streaming on that. Also, thank you, Deccan. Thank you. Hi. How are you? So anyway, we're gonna get over happy anniversary. Thank you, Stark. Thank you. Gonna go over a few things. Why I've been gone. Working. I worked a lot. Like too much. Too much. I've worked too much, and yeah, very not healthy. Don't recommend it, but I did it. But I'm good now. I should be good for at least a couple weeks. And the other thing is, me and my parents are moving. So yeah, that's like a whole ordeal that I have today, and hopefully Friday and Sunday without any issues. Hopefully, and we'll see where things go from there. But you guys aren't here to listen to me complain about that stuff. You're here to listen to me read SCP entries. So, you might be wondering to yourself, what is SCP? If you've never heard of it, we're going to go over the About page real quick. But first, I got to get in the corner. Let me get my glasses on. There we go. Glasses are on. Adjusting headphones. And then I'm going to do a funny thing with the microphone. So hold, please. Hello? Hello? Hey! You made it through your first night! Yeah, we're gonna do the radio thing, because I think it's silly goofy. And also to add to that... Oh yeah, we're getting in the zone. Welcome to the zone. Alrighty. Mankind in its present state has been around for 250,000 years, yet only a small fraction of that has been of any significance. So, what did we do for nearly 250,000 years? We huddled in caves and around small fires, fearful of the things that we didn't understand. It was more than explaining why the sun came up. It was the mystery of enormous birds with heads of men and rocks that came to life. So we called them gods and demons, begged them to spare us, and prayed for salvation. In time, their numbers dwindled and ours rose. The world began to make more sense when there were fewer things to fear. Yet the unexplained can never truly go away, as if the universe demands the absurd and impossible. Mankind must not go back to hiding in fear. No one else will protect us, and we must stand up for ourselves. While the rest of mankind dwells in the light, we must stand in the darkness to fight it, contain it, and shield it from the eyes of the public, so that others may live in a sane and normal world. We secure, we contain, we protect. The administration. Operating clandestine, I don't even know what that word is, and worldwide, the Foundation acts beyond conventional jurisdiction, with the task of containing anomalous objects, entities, and phenomena. We maintain an extensive database of information regarding anomalies requiring special containment procedures, commonly referred to as SCPs, all of which undermine the natural laws that the people of the world implicitly trust in. We operate to maintain normalcy so that the worldwide civilian population can live and go on with their daily lives without fear, mistrust, or doubt in their personal beliefs, and to maintain human independence from extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional, and other extra-normal influence. Our mission is threefold. Secure. Secure anomalies to prevent them from falling into the hands of civilian or rival agencies through extensive observation and surveillance, acting to intercept anomalies at the earliest opportunity. Contain. Contain anomalies to prevent spread of their influence or effects, by either relocating, concealing, or dismantling them, or by suppressing public dissemination of knowledge thereof. Protect. Protects humanity as well as the anomalies themselves until such time that they are either fully understood or new theories of science can be devised based on their properties and behavior. Additional info will have been provided upon you joining us in pursuit of our goals. Welcome to the Foundation, and good luck. So basically, this is a bunch of fan-made entries about anomalies and what has happened and how they contain them, their class, like how dangerous they are, yada yada yada. It's fun. The SCP Wiki is a collaborative speculative fiction website about the SCP Foundation, a secretive organization that contains anomalous and supernatural items and entities away from the eyes of the public, or so it may appear. The Wiki is a collaborative effort made possible by the contributions of hundreds of authors. If you want to become, yeah, we don't want to become an author. We don't care about the guidelines because we're not breaking any. And that's that. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be reading some of these. And as you can see, I've got a few of them. So we're going to start with SCP-999. Item number SCP-999. Object class, safe. Special containment procedures. SCP-999 is allowed to freely roam the facility should it desire to, but otherwise must stay in its pen either between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. for sleeping, or during emergency lockdowns for its own safety. Subject is not allowed out of its pen at night or off facility grounds at any time. Pen is to be kept clean and food replaced twice daily. All personnel are allowed inside SCP-999's holding area, but only if they are not assigned to other tasks at the time, or if they are on break. Subject is to be played with when bored and spoken to in a calm, non-threatening tone. Hi, Senshi. It's Senshi desune. Hi. How goes it? You're here just in time to listen to me reading SCP entries. Also, I have gamer subs that I'm going to be drinking so I don't go honk shoo. And with all good gamer subs, you must have some water to go along with it. Water. Description. SCP-999 appears to be a large, amorphous, gelatinous mass of translucent orange slime, weighing about 54 kilograms, 120 pounds for all you freedom people, with a consistency similar to that of peanut butter. Subject's size and shape is easily malleable and can change shape at will, though when at rest, SCP-999 becomes a rounded, oblate dome roughly 2 meters wide and 1 meter in height. Gamer subs, try the new space juice flavor and get 20% discount when using code SUNCHI kiss. Hey, come on, let's make that a thing, honestly. Yes, that needs to happen. The surface of SCP-999 consists of thin, transparent membrane similar to that of an animal cell roughly 0.5 centimeters thick and is highly elastic, allowing SCP-999 to flatten portions of its body up to 2 centimeters thin. Their surface is also hydrophobic, although SCP-999 can willfully absorb liquids. See Addendum 999-A. I think we get to that later. The rest of SCP-999's body is filled with a viscous orange substance of unknown chemical makeup, though it is capable of digesting organic materials with ease. Subject's temperament is best described as playful and dog-like. When approached, SCP-999 will often react with overwhelming elation, slithering over to the nearest person and leaping upon them, hugging them with a pair of pseudopods while nuzzling the person's face with a third pseudopod, and all the while emitting high-pitched gurgling and cooing noises. The surface of SCP-999 emits a pleasing odor that differs with whomever it is interacting with. Record scents include chocolate, fresh laundry, bacon, roses, and Play-Doh. TM. Simply touching SCP-999's surface causes an immediate mild euphoria, which intensifies the longer one is exposed to SCP-999. And lasts long after separation from the creature. Subject's favorite activity is tickle wrestling, often by completely enveloping a person from the neck down and tickling them until asked to stop, though it does not always immediately comply with this request. Though injuries may occur, SCP-999 has never been found to purposefully attempt to harm others and will immediately back away and contract its body into a quivering mound while gurgling in a manner similar to a whimpering dog, seemingly apologizing for hurting someone on accident. While the creature will interact with anyone, it seems to have a special interest in those who are unhappy or hurt in any way. Persons suffering from crippling depression or PTSD, for example, have reported having a far more positive outlook on life after multiple interactions with SCP-999. The possibility of manufacturing antidepressants from SCP-999 slime is currently being discussed. In addition to its playful behavior, SCP-999 seems to love all animals, especially humans, refusing to eat any meat and even risking its own life to save others, on one occasion leaping in front of a person to take a bullet fired at him. Subject's intellect is still up for debate, though its behavior is infantile. It seems to understand human speech and most modern technology, including guns. SCP-999's diet consists entirely of candy and sweets, with M&Ms, TM, and Necco, TM, wafers being its favorites. Its eating methods are similar to those of an amoeba. Man, Seth should just be an ASMR at this point. No. This is what was brought up before. Addendum SCP-999-A. Reminder to all staff, SCP-999 is not to consume caffeinated soft drinks of any kind. Last week someone gave SCP-999 a can of cola along with its usual breakfast. Not only was it literally bouncing off the walls for half an hour, the carbonation made SCP-999 visibly queasy afterwards, and it refused to move or eat the rest of the day. SCP-999 has thankfully recovered since, but the staff member in question has been reprimanded. Tickle our brains. Sanchi, calm down. It's just a voice. Addendum SCP-999-B. The following is a report from an experiment in which SCP-682, which I believe, we have this one later, is exposed to SCP-999 in hopes that it will curb the creature's homicidal rage. SCP-999, I'm not doing voices, I'm sorry, I don't feel like doing that right now. SCP-999 is released into SCP-682's containment area. SCP-999 immediately slithers towards SCP-682. Elated gurgles. Unintelligible groans, growling. What is that? SCP-999 moves in front of SCP-682, jumping up and down in a dog-like manner while calling out in a high-pitched squealing noise. Disgusting. SCP-682 immediately steps on SCP-999, completely flattening SCP-999. Observers were about to abort the experiment when 682 started talking again. What is this? I feel good. SCP-999 can be seen crawling up from between SCP-682's toes, up along its side and around its neck, where it clings on and begins gently nuzzling with its pseudopods. A wide grin slowly spreads across SCP-682's face. feel so happy, 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 happy. 682 repeats the word happy for several minutes, laughing occasionally before escalating into nonstop laughter. As laughter continues, SCP-682 rolls around on its back, slamming its tail upon the floor with dangerous force. Stop! No tickling. SCP-682 and SCP-999 continue the tickle fight until SCP-682 finally wears down and appears to fall asleep with what would appear to be a smile on its face. After 15 minutes with no activity, 2 D-Class personnel enter the room to retrieve SCP-999. When SCP-999 is removed, SCP-682 immediately wakes up and unleashes an unidentifiable wave of energy from its body, all the while laughing maniacally. Going to bed now, so I can't say congrats on becoming old. Thanks, Amari. Thank you. Go sleep. Honk shoes. All persons within the wave's range collapse into crippling fits of laughter, allowing SCP-682 to escape and slaughter all in its path. Meanwhile, SCP-999 quickly rescues as many persons as it can, taking them to a safe place to recover from 682's laughter wave, while agents suppress and recontain SCP-682. Despite the tragedy that SCP-682 had brought upon the facility, SCP-999 has not shown any fear towards the creature, and in fact has made gestures suggesting it wants to play with SCP-682 again. SCP-682, however, has stated the feculent little unintelligible can and die. Memo from Dr. While the test was unsuccessful and ended in tragedy, that had to be the funniest thing I had ever seen. I never thought I'd see the day when I would regard SCP-682 as cute. Please send me a copy of the security tapes ASAP. And if I remember, this is the lizard. Does it say what exactly it is? Large reptile-like creature. Yeah, this is actually what's on my thumbnail. That one is. How long is this one? Okay, these ones, some of these are short, and there's some like this one that are quite long. This is like one of the longest ones that there is. So, I thought I'd throw it in there in case we get through all of these. But I don't know about that. Alright, stretch. Alrighty. Note, file under review. This document has been flagged for possible methodological issues. Please be aware that the following information is subject to change and may contain inaccuracies. SCP 5031, because I'm not going to say 5031, it's 5031. Object class, Keter, which I believe is aggressive, like very aggressive. I believe that's what it is. Special containment procedures. SCP-5031 is to be contained in an airtight iron cell in Biosite 59. The structure must be inspected for imperfections on a bi-weekly basis. No other interaction necessary. Description. SCP-5031 is a non-sapient quasi-humanoid creature of unknown origin. While directly observed, SCP-5031 will temporarily cease to exist until the viewer stops observing the space that SCP-5031 formerly occupied. Traces of his existence, examples, scratch marks, blood trails, continue to exist when SCP-5031 does not. Video and photography devices do not capture SCP-5031's appearance. However, observing SCP-5031's shadow does not cause cessation of existence, allowing certain physiological traits to be inferred from its silhouette. Abnormally small head with no discernible neck. Elbows branch into 3 sets of lower arms each. Elongated torso, approximately 1.9 meters in length. Pelvis terminates in a crescent-shaped protrusion of osseous tissue with a blade-like lower edge, and levitates above the ground at a fixed height of 0.5 meters. While SCP-5031 has no nutritional needs, it will nevertheless hunt and consume any human or animal it encounters by using its pendulous lower body to down targets. SCP-5031 does not sleep and is incapable of expression or verbal communication. Addendum. As of 14/2/2018, senior researcher Stanley Huxtable is now acting as in the role of HMCL supervisor for SCP-5031. The following is a selection of relevant correspondences from Senior Huxtable to Site Director Yusuf Mustafi, elucidating research progress. I can't read words. Initial impressions. I have no idea who wrote this, but there's a lot I'd like to say to them. I'm not a fan of abandoning a living creature inside a metal box for 10 years, no matter how pragmatic it may be. It's difficult to fathom that such things were considered the norm a decade ago. Have you ever heard something scream from behind 10 inches of iron for hours on end? When I do my redraft, remind me to add anomalous resistance to hoarseness somewhere in the description. Could you work your magic and get the boys to retrofit the containment cube with an aperture and security vestibule? I'd like to run some tests that require exposing SCP-5031 to certain stimuli. Alright. I can't read words, and these people use words I've never seen before. Round 1 tests. Sound. Summary. Forward. Installed speakers in the containment vestibule and played various albums of natural ambience and popular music. SCP-5031's propensity for screaming worked as a convenient way to measure its stress levels. 100% would be considered its typical screaming, volume and duration, over 48 hours, and 0% would be no screaming at all. Alright. Morning forest ambience 43%. Seaside paradise ambience 48%. Deep grotto ambience, I'm going to change the way I say it every time, 62%. Best of Mozart 13%. Best of Enya 18%. The best of Ben Folds 6%. The best of Jethro Tull 59%. The best of Kiss 23%. Afterwards, efficacy of music for stress reduction gradually decreases over time. I've assembled a playlist of SCP-5031's favorite music to play on shuffle in its enclosure in perpetuity. Stress levels consistently remain in the 15 to 25% range, baseline adjusted accordingly. Okay, round 2 tests. Play. Summary. Forward. Additional retrofitting was made to the containment chamber to facilitate observation, namely the integration of reinforced viewing windows arranged behind a scrim onto which shadows may be projected by using lamps placed along the opposite wall. Test. Toss softball into enclosure. SCP sliced the ball in 2. Toss basketball into the enclosure. SCP-5031 sliced the ball open. Rolled bowling ball into enclosure. SCP-5031 scratched a couple grooves into the ball, then rolled the ball around the enclosure with the blunt side of its tail for 20 minutes. Stress levels remained 60% or less than 60% after play. Bowling ball chipped to the extent that it would no longer roll properly, unplanned. Stress levels increased to 115%. Replacement bowling ball provided. Stress levels fell back to 40%. Rolled additional bowling ball into enclosure. SCP used the blunt side of its tail to hit the 2 balls together for a while. Stress levels remained less than 40% after play. Tossed basketball into enclosure. SCP-5031 picked up and played with ball. Stress levels remained less than 20% after play. Afterwards, SCP-5031 appears to have learned to use its hands to play with the basketball in order to avoid accidentally damaging it. Motor skills comparable to that of a toddler. SCP-5031 still prefers bowling ball for kicking. Alrighty. Round 3 tests. Food. Summary. Forward. SCP-5031 was given the choice between two potential food sources placed at opposite ends of the enclosure: human corpse or pig carcass. The SCP-5031 chose the pig carcass. The pig carcass or the chicken carcass? It chose the pig carcass. Pig carcass or rotisserie chicken? It picked rotisserie chicken. Chicken carcass or rotisserie chicken? It chose rotisserie chicken. Live chicken or rotisserie chicken? It chose rotisserie chicken. And roasted turkey or rotisserie chicken? It chose neither. It has been presumed that SCP-5031 is sated. Afterwards, while it's true that SCP-5031 doesn't necessarily need to eat, feeding it regularly has caused a marked decrease in average stress levels. Stress reduction seems to scale proportionally with the quality of food provided. Also of note is that SCP-5031 prefers to use its tail to pry and cut meat into bite-sized portions rather than rip the meat into chunks with its teeth or hands. Alright, round 4 tests. Coexistence. Summary. Test 1. SCP-5031 fed until sated. Live subject, common chicken, introduced to enclosure. SCP-5031 observed subject from a distance for several minutes and then rolled a bowling ball towards the subject at high speeds. Subject was killed instantly. SCP-5031's stress levels rose immediately and drastically. Nice. Bowling balls removed from enclosure for test 2. SCP-5031 fed until sated. Live subject, common chicken, introduced to enclosure. SCP-5031 gently rolled a basketball towards the subject. Ball hit subject lightly. Subject responded with a small cry and moved away. SCP-5031 did not engage with subject any further. Test 3. SCP-5031 fed until sated. Live subject, Class D personnel, blindfolded, introduced to enclosure, and instructed to sit and roll basketball forward, then wait until it came back and roll it away again. Subject and SCP-5031 successfully rolled the ball back and forth for several minutes. SCP-5031 eventually abandoned the activity and approached subject. Per safety protocol, subject removed their blindfold to terminate the activity. Naruhodo. Test 4. SCP-5031 fed until sated. Live subject, Class D, introduced to the enclosure and instructed to toss a tennis ball at the wall, let it ricochet behind them, then catch and repeat. SCP-5031 stood behind the subject and successfully engaged in game of catch, mimicking subject's actions of letting ball ricochet against the wall. SCP-5031's motor skills appear to be rapidly improving. I'm glad it didn't kill the Class D, because it's kinda cute. I mean, its description, objectively, is not very cute. But the way that it plays is pretty cute, you gotta admit. Gamers ups, and followed by water. Round 5 test. Symbols. 5 LCD displays were fitted into the wall of SCP-5031's enclosure, each with a lit button and a food dispenser underneath. 2 stations activated. Screen 1 displayed the image of a rock. Its button dispensed rocks. Screen 2 displayed the image of a rotisserie chicken. Its button dispensed pieces of chicken. SCP-5031 poked at the image of a chicken for a few minutes and eventually hit the button. Chicken was dispensed until SCP-5031 was satisfied. Test 2. Screen displays and the materials dispensed were swapped. SCP-5031 hit the button it had hit the previous day and received a rock. It then went to the other screen and hit the button to dispense chicken. Test 3. Screen displays and materials dispensed were swapped back to their original positions and set to swap again at random intervals after first distribution. SCP-5031 went directly to the button next to the image of a chicken, experienced apparent confusion after the first mid-distribution swap, but quickly learned to watch the images. Test 4. 3 more stations, screens, buttons, dispensers were activated. 4 stations displayed the word rock and dispensed rocks. One station displayed the word chicken and dispensed chicken. Arrangements set to change randomly several times over the next following days. Through trial and error, SCP-5031 determined which station dispensed chicken. SCP-5031 subsequently went to the station marked chicken whenever displays were swapped. Test 5. All stations deactivated except one. Screen displayed the word chicken. 7 wood blocks were set in front of the station, each marked with one of the letters in the word chicken. The station's button was set to remain unlit and inactive until the blocks were arranged in the correct order. SCP-5031 expressed apparent frustration, hitting the inactive button repeatedly and striking the wall with its tail. He didn't get his chicken. That's so sad. Same as previous test, but screen displayed the word chicken, with each letter overlaid on a photo of a wooden block. After 12 minutes, SCP-5031 successfully assembled the word chicken. Afterward, it can learn language, Yusuf. How many tests are there? A lot. Round 6 tests. Vocabulary. SCP-5031 has learned to use letter blocks to form the following words: chicken, turkey, pork, tofu, beef, bread, more salt, more pepper, more cooked. Music: Mozart, Enya, Ben Folds, Forest, Seaside, White Noise, more volume, less volume, and silence. And play: basketball, bowling ball, tennis ball, cat, dog, human, Robert, Stanley, alone. Through its increased vocabulary and human interactions, SCP-5031 has made the following progress: established food preferences in dish pairings, learned to sing non-verbally, and learned to juggle. Six-handed juggling is something to behold. Ha. Round 7 tests. Activities. Test 1. Introduce table, paper, and crayons into the enclosure. Live subject D52125 instructed to demonstrate drawing to SCP-5031. Test 2. Introduce... Oh wait, no, sorry. I completely forgot to read the result. SCP-5031 learned to draw. Discernible subjects depicted in its artworks include D52125, SCP-5031, a rotisserie chicken, a cat, and myself. Test 2. Introduce piano into the enclosure. Live subject D52125 instructed to play chopsticks blindfolded and invite SCP-5031 to play along. Subject had time to practice beforehand. Result: SCP-5031 learned chopsticks in 2 days. Though it appeared more interested in making its own original music, complete with vocals, these compositions might be considered crude by human standards. No, but they're perfect. Test 3. Introduce spice rack into enclosure. Live subject D52125 instructed to demonstrate seasoning meats. SCP-5031 spent almost 3 straight days experimenting with different combinations of food and spices. SCP-5031 assembled the words more with its letter box after running out of garlic powder. Understandable, garlic powder kinda slaps. Alright. SCP-5031 only engages with art and music when accompanied by D52125, but it continues to be preoccupied with food preparations even when alone. He just wants a friend. Round 8 tests. Cooking. Basic kitchen utilities installed in enclosure. Live subject D52125 instructed to demonstrate preparations of various recipes. Quesadilla, tacos, hamburgers, fried rice, Mongolian beef, spicy chicken curry, chocolate chip cookies, sponge cake with buttercream, fudge, clam chowder, steak, macaroons, chicken adobo, I've never heard that, smoked salmon, and profiteroles. I don't know what this one is either. SCP-5031 has a severe peanut allergy. This should be included in the revised containment procedures. I would also like to note that SCP-5031 is now a better chef than the average human and has begun to create its own recipes. D52125 has volunteered to taste test. Update. SCP-5031 has said its first word. Salt. We are all immensely proud. Final test. SCP-5031 was given 2 months to develop a 3-course meal to serve at the Bio Site 59 cafeteria for personnel working over Thanksgiving. Its selections were as followed. First course, sweet potato turmeric miso soup. Second course, duck confit with apple cider glaze and cranberry compote topping paired with butternut squash gnocchi, or gnocchi, it's pronounced gnocchi, on a bed of kale seasoned with truffle salt. And for the third course, a slice of spice cassava pie topped with French vanilla ice cream and a maple hazelnut syrup. SCP-5031 also debuted its original composition, Piano Sonata for 6 Hands, in a live performance broadcast from its enclosure. Personnel response was overwhelmingly positive. SCP-5031 stress levels at 0%. Testing successfully concluded. Revised document submitted for approval. This is such a cute little guy. He's so cute. Wait, is Robert D52125? Yeah, he is. Sharp implements withheld per security code. Oh. What was the 3? Oh, an enclosure. Sharp implements withheld per security. Okay. Okay. I did not need... That's not important, but anyway. That would be SCP-5031. He's such a cutie patootie. I love him. It was so cute. I kind of wanted it to keep going. It was so beautiful. I almost knocked my water over. Aha. Again, the gamer subs with water combo. There we go. Alrighty. SCP-3008. Object Class Euclid. I think that is like passive. I believe Euclid is passive or safe. Special Containment Procedures. The retail park containing SCP-3008 has been purchased by the Foundation and converted into Site. All public roads leading to or passing by Site has been redirected. The entrance to SCP-3008 is to be monitored at all times, and no one is to enter SCP-3008 outside of testing as permitted by Senior Researcher. Humans exiting SCP-3008 are to be detained and then debriefed prior to the administration of amnestics. Dependent upon the duration of their stay in SCP-3008, a cover story may need to be generated prior to their release. Any other entities existing or exiting SCP-3008 are to be terminated. So this one, SCPs aren't always a living being. Sometimes they are places with weird anomalies. This one seems to be a retail park. It says retail park containing SCP, so it might be something else, but we'll figure out. Alright, here we go. SCP-3008 is a large retail unit previously owned by and branded as IKEA. Oh, this is the IKEA. The funny IKEA SCP. That's what it is. Branded as IKEA, a popular furniture retail chain. A person entering SCP-3008 through the main entrance and then passing out of sight of the doors will find themselves translocated to SCP-3008-1. This displacement will typically go unnoticed as no change will occur from the perspective of the victim. They will generally not become aware until they try to return to the entrance. SCP-3008-1 is a space resembling the inside of an IKEA furniture store, extending far beyond the limits of what could physically be contained within the dimensions of the retail unit. Current measurements indicate an area of at least 10 kilometers squared, with no visible external terminators detected in any direction. Inconclusive results from the use of laser rangefinders has led to the speculation that the space may be infinite. Lovely. SCP-3008-1 is inhabited by an unknown number of civilians trapped within prior to containment. Gathered data suggests they have formed a rudimentary civilization within SCP-3001, including the construction of settlements and fortifications for the purpose of defending against SCP-3008-2. SCP-3008-2 are humanoid entities that exist within SCP-3008-1. While superficially resembling humans, they possess exaggerated and inconsistent bodily proportions, often described as being too short or too tall. They possess no facial features, and in all observed cases wear a yellow shirt and blue trousers consistent with the IKEA employee uniform. SCP-3008-1 has a rudimentary day-night cycle determined by the overhead lighting within the space, activating and deactivating at times consistent with the opening and closing times of the original retail store. During the night, instances of SCP-3008-2 will become violent towards all other life forms within SCP-3008-1. During these bouts of violence, they have been heard to vocalize phrases in English that are typical variations of "the store is now closed, please exit the building." Once day begins, SCP-3008-2 instances immediately become passive and begin moving throughout SCP-3008-1 seemingly at random. They are unresponsive to questioning or other verbal cues in this state, though will react violently if attacked. SCP-3008-1 is known to have one or more exits located within, though these exits do not appear to have a fixed position, making it difficult to leave SCP-3008-1 once inside. Using any other door besides the main entrance to enter the structure or breaking through the walls of the retail unit leads into the non-anomalous interior of the original store. Since containment began, 14 individuals have managed to exit SCP-3008. Following extensive debriefing, all individuals have been administered amnetics and released. At 0037 on 2000, a human male exited SCP-3008, followed 10 seconds later by an instance of SCP-3008-2. SCP-3008-2 caught and killed the man before itself being terminated by armed response personnel. This incident represents the only time an instance of SCP-3008-2 has been seen exiting SCP-3008. A full autopsy of the corpse was performed. See SCP-3008-2 autopsy logs for more details. The man was carrying an IKEA-branded journal, seeming to document his time in SCP-3008-1, transcribed below verbatim. So I'm writing this to document what I can only assume is my sudden descent into insanity. I can't possibly be that bad a navigator, and yet, as I write this, I've been trapped in IKEA for 2 days. I haven't seen another person in the entire time I've been here. I thought it was a prank at first. Turn the place into a maze, get all the people out, and see how long it takes me to get lost. Then everyone has a good laugh. Realized that wasn't the case when I tried to backtrack. Everything had changed, so I ended up lost. Instead of the exit, it was just row after row of bookcases. So I'm trapped in IKEA. Sounds like the setup for a bad joke. The lights went out at 10 p.m. Nearly gave me a fucking heart attack. That loud electrical thunk sound, and then pitch blackness. Place is full of beds though, and my phone has a torch on it, but no damn signal. So I found a bed and went to sleep. Spent most of the next day trying to find my way out with no luck. Did find a restaurant serving those meatballs though, so at least I won't starve. That's probably the punchline to that joke. Anyway, they were still warm and fresh, but I haven't seen anyone around who could have cooked them. Made my way back to the beds before the lights cut out again, since it's too dark to search with them off. It's 9:10 a.m. now. The lights came back on a little while ago. I'm sure I've searched the entire area around where I came in, and the exit obviously isn't here, so I'm going to pick a direction and hope for the best. Oh my goodness, this is so long. Day 3 of my magical IKEA mystery adventure. If I wasn't sure that there was something seriously weird about this place before, I am now. Walked for 3 hours in a more or less straight line. Insert IKEA joke here. Before I came across a ladder next to one of those huge stock shelves that they have here. Climbed up to get my bearings, and it looks like the place just stretches on forever. Like that scene from The Lion King, except instead of trees and grass, it was all shelves and tables and crap. I did see a person moving not too far away though, so I headed over. Thought it was a staff member at first. It was wearing the uniform. And hell, maybe it was. Maybe freakish 7-foot-tall monsters with long arms, short legs, and no faces are just the kind of thing they want working at Super IKEA. Damn thing completely ignored me though, and with no eyes or ears, I can't even be sure it knew I was there. Thought about shoving it or something to get its attention, but its hands were big enough to crush a watermelon, so I decided against it. It just kept moving along, and eventually I lost sight of it, so I decided to carry on the way I was going. Anyway, no comfy bed for me tonight. Looks like I've entered the improbability hard and pointy table section of the store. Improbably hard and pointy table section of the store. Guess I'll have to make do with some bunched up tablecloths. Phone battery died during the day too. Didn't work anyway, but I feel like I've just lost some vital lifeline. You ever see one of those cartoons where they're going through doors in a hallway and they just pop out another door in the same hallway? That's how I feel right now. I've seen nothing but the same identical bookshelf for 2 days now. Just row after row after row of them. I mean, come on. I love books as much as the next guy, but this is excessive. I'm obviously still moving forwards though. I can see the signs hanging overhead passing by. Too bad none of them say exit. Not sure who I was addressing that question to. Let's just say it was for practice for the autobiography I'm going to write when I get out of here. I'll call it my perfectly normal trip to a regular old IKEA. If I ever get out. Finally found some other people. Yeah, it turns out I'm not the only poor bastard trapped in here. Lucky for me, I guess. My 6th night here, 2 of those staff things came at me in the dark. Different from the first one I saw, but still messed up. Heard them coming. They were saying that the store was closed and I had to leave the building. All nice and polite like. I'm not sure which part of that was weirder, that they didn't have mouths or that they were apparently trying to kill me while they were saying it. Came at me like rabid dogs. So, I liked it. Sprinting through IKEA in the dark like a fucking madman. I saw it when I cleared another stand of those giant stock shelves, all lit up with torches and floodlights. They built the whole town in here. Got a massive wall built out of shelves and beds and tables and whatever else. I swear to God, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Anyway, I guess they saw me coming, or maybe they heard my girlish, manly bellows of fear, because they had a gate open and 2 people there waving me in. Heard the staff's thing slam into the gate behind me after it closed. Still politely informing us that the store was now closed, they wandered off eventually though. They call the town Exchange because that's what's on the sign hanging from the ceiling directly above it. Exchange and returns. All lit up against the night using lights they found and plugged into the power lines. And there are beds and food and people. Over 50 wonderful people with regular-sized limbs and a full set of facial features. It's now my 7th night here, and the first one not spent in darkness. A full week living in IKEA. There's probably a TV show there somewhere. Now that I'm around other people, I'm starting to feel more normal. Maybe normal isn't the word. But after a week with only the sound of my own footsteps for company, I was becoming increasingly sure I'd just gone nuts. That I was tied up in some padded room somewhere, banging my head against the wall. But no, I feel quite sane now, thank you very much. Apparently, there are other towns out there. Some with more people, some with less. I found that fairly mind-boggling. But how can that many people go missing with no one noticing? Surely someone would have noticed that everyone who goes to IKEA seems to fucking vanish. Or maybe it's not everyone, maybe we're just the lucky ones. The people here just call those staff monsters things the staff. Apparently, they are fine during the day, minding their own business and walking the aisles. As soon as those lights go off though, they go fucking bonkers. So during the day, people go out to find food, water, and whatever else they need. Apparently, there are restaurants and shops around that randomly get restocked. No one knows how. Maybe the staff do it. Apparently, they aren't very good at their jobs though because the restocking sometimes takes a while, which means the food needs to be rationed. Maybe if they weren't so busy chasing people around in the dark, they'd get more done. Anyway, when the night comes, the staff go nuts and everyone holds up inside the walls. Apparently, it's the same everywhere in this place, whatever this place is. The IKEA, from whence all other IKEA sprang, or maybe they're all still just in the regular IKEA, and this is all some fever dream brought on by mind-numbing boredom. Who knows? Been here for 10 days now. Most of the people I asked said that they stopped keeping track a long time ago, and one guy, Chris, said he's been in here for years. Years. Illegible scribbles. Apparently, there are rumors of people who do manage to get out, and of people who see the exit, but only to have it vanish in their eyes. I get the feeling not everyone believes that, but I do. Explains how we got stuck in here in the first place. Sort of. And I mean, come on. Staff monsters, rows after endless rows of high-quality Swedish furniture. I don't know why they would find a disappearing door so hard to believe in. Anyway, I went out scavenging for food at a nearby shop with Sandra and Jerry today. Once you learn the landmarks of this place, it's not so hard to navigate. The overhead signs help a lot, but there are others. Not too far in the distance, a huge section of those giant stock shelves have collapsed against each other, and way off in the east, we all assume it's east anyway, apparently IKEA doesn't sell compasses. Maybe they were trying to break through the roof, lights up at night, so there must be people there. But it's apparently a few days' walk, which means it must be miles away. So no one here really knows for sure. Apparently I got incredibly lucky sleeping out in the open for a week without getting ripped to bits by the staff. That's me. Lucky, lucky, lucky. We found some food in the shop. Guess the staff restocked it during the night, which was nice of them. There was a telephone on the wall, so I figured I'd try it out, but there was a voice on the other end, but they were just talking nonsense. Random words strung together with no real meaning. You ever see a video of someone with aphasia? Kind of sounded like that. Didn't answer me when I spoke to them anyway. Sandra says all the phones in here are the same. Oops, asking the journal questions again. I was thinking last night. The ceiling on this place is pretty high, and as far as anyone can tell, it goes on forever. Shouldn't there be some kind of weather in here? I'm sure I read about some NASA buildings that was so big it had its own weather patterns, with clouds and stuff. This place is definitely bigger than that, but now I think about it, I'm pretty sure I've never felt so much as a temperature change in here. I'll add it to the grand list of weird bullshit. The staff attacked the exchange last night. Must have been 20 or 30 of them, all just asking us to leave the store as calm as possible while trying to smash the walls down with their bare hands. Apparently this happens pretty regularly, so everyone is prepared for it. Knives from the restaurant, lawnmower blades made into hatchets, a fire axe. One guy, Wasim, even made a functional crossbow. Anyway, the walls have holes in them, which I hadn't noticed before, specifically so we can stab out at the staff when they attack. Took a couple of them down myself. They don't seem to bleed, which is weird, but they do go down as easy as a regular person once you start sticking holes in them. We had to haul the bodies away in the morning. Apparently the dead ones will attract more during the night, so we had to get them away from the exchange. We had a couple of those trolley things they use to move big boxes around, so we loaded them up and took them over to pickup. Apparently people just name everything in here after whatever sign is hanging overhead. Pickup was grisly. There were hundreds, maybe thousands of dead staff all piled up. There was no smell, which was a blessing. Apparently, in addition to not bleeding, these things don't rot either. My curiosity got the better of me while we were unloading them, so I took a look at one of the more cut up ones. They're just skin, or something that looks like skin all the way through. No muscle, no bone, no organs. Are they even really alive in the first place? They certainly seem like they have bones when they're moving around, pounding on the walls, and I'm sure I felt more resistance than just skin when the knife went in during the night. Maybe something happens to them after they die. Just one more thing on the ever-increasing list of weird shit that goes on in here, I guess. Something occurred to me. After the staff attack the other night, every time you see a situation like this on TV or a film, like it's the end of the world or everyone's trapped on an island or whatever, once groups like ours start to form, people always seem to turn on each other, fighting for food or dominance or whatever else. That hasn't happened here. Apparently, people from other towns come by from time to time just to check in or occasionally trade if they're short on something, but everything is always cordial, friendly even. Maybe it's the threat of the staff, or perhaps the constant restocking of supplies in the shops means there's nothing much to fight over. Maybe people are just better than they are generally given credit for. That's a nice thought. I think I'll go with that one. A dozen people showed up at the gates this afternoon from a town called Trolleys. Apparently the staff broke through the walls and tore the town apart during the night. These 12 are the only survivors out of over 100. We let them in, obviously. One more point in the human decency column. Later, I asked if anyone knew how many of these towns there were out there. Between us and the new folks, we managed to come up with over 20 names, 20 towns filled with people, and who knows how many beyond that. The motto for this place should be, how is that even possible? Surely someone, somewhere, has been looking for the thousands of people that must be in here. Alright, I've been here for a little over 2 months now. Not that much changes, as it turns out. A couple of new people showed up, same story as the rest of us. Nice little trip to IKEA, and suddenly they're trapped in Billy Bookcase's house of faceless weirdos. The staff attack the exchange once or twice a week. We kill them and haul their bodies off. Sometimes they hurt some of us first. They killed a guy called Jared a couple of weeks back. It was awful, frankly. Turns out regular humans still bleed in here, even if the staff don't. We tried our best, but none of us are doctors. Jared was a good guy. He deserved better. We all do. It occurred to me a couple of days after that, none of us were really looking for a way out of here. I don't even know where we'd start. One of those quadcopter things with a camera attached buzzed past exchange today. I thought it meant that someone was finally looking for us, that help was on the way. Apparently, it's not the first time that has happened though. Same thing happened a few months ago, and everyone's still here. No idea if it saw us. It didn't stop if it did, just kept flying until we could no longer see it. Based on recovery time with the journal, this entry appears to line up approximately with our first successful test piloting a drone inside SCP-3008-1. Analysis of footage shows a walled settlement under a sign name labeled Exchange in Returns. Attempts to relocate the settlement failed. Origin of previously sighted drones is unknown. I started talking to people about the stuff they missed from home during dinner today. Probably not the best idea I've had. Everyone seems pretty down after. A bunch of people here have families, husbands and wives, kids, dogs. Franklin apparently has a pet llama, though I'm not sure I buy that. But apparently, some of the people here have some seriously odd gaps in their knowledge. 2 of them have never heard of the International Space Station, 2 of them seem to think was a prime minister, and one of them has apparently never heard of the Statue of Liberty. I believe them too. They seem just as confused as the rest of us. Mild break, I need water. The more I thought about it though, the more I decided to explain a few things. What if the reason no one is looking for all of us missing people is because we haven't all come from the same place? This is going to sound weird. Maybe that should be the motto for this place. But what if all the people here have come from different dimensions, realities, whatever you call it? I've seen enough TV shows to know the drill. Sarah comes from a place where there's no Statue of Liberty. They didn't launch a space station where Wasson was from. If everyone here came from different places, even from the ones that seem identical, there'd be no huge missing person panic, no mass search. We'd just be a blip, a single missing person in a world of non-stop news. Well, that was a fun train of thought. Oh yeah. Just realized yesterday was the 6-month anniversary of my arrival here. I wonder if IKEA sells party hats. The routine around here has remained more or less the same. More new folks show up, one every couple of weeks or so. Food supplies go up and down, but we've never actually had a major shortage. Occasionally we get a visitor from one of the nearby towns, usually checkouts or aisle 630. We check in with each other from time to time, occasionally trade supplies, if someone gets particularly low on something. It's comforting, in a way, reminded that we aren't alone in here. Some small glimmer of civilization. Sometimes they bring medical supplies. Currently, there's a pharmacy a few towns down from checkouts that gets restocked every now and then, so they share out what they can. I've never heard of an IKEA with a pharmacy before, but at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if someone stumbled on an IKEA organ harvesting lab. Would certainly explain the staff. Speaking of our faceless jailers, their attacks have been getting worse lately. 3 or 4 times a week now, with twice as many staff as there used to be. No idea where they all come from, or why the attacks have increased. We followed one of them during the day a few weeks ago, me and Sarah. Wanted to see if they lead back to a staff room or something. Didn't seem to go anywhere though, just randomly walked through the aisles. We had to turn back before we found anything. We've been reinforcing the walls, trying to arm ourselves better. Certainly no lack of or lack of materials to use. Lawson has been making more crossbows, but it's pretty slow going. Too bad IKEA doesn't sell guns. And Senshi, I'm incredibly disappointed in that current message, and I'm not going to repeat it. Note: no new personnel has entered SCP-3008 at site blank in the time span indicated in this entry. The attacks are getting bad now, almost every night, and with so many staff that the bodies almost pile high enough for others to climb the wall. I think we're in real trouble here. Exchange is. I think exchange is done. We got hit pretty bad last night. Not many casualties, but the wall is wrecked. We finally figured out why the attacks have been escalating too. The box of supplies had a chunk of one of the staff in there. No idea how it happened, but apparently a piece of one will draw them as well as a full body. Too late now, in any case, there's too many bodies for us to haul away and still have time to fix the wall before night. Candace had called a meeting. I suspect there will be a talk of abandoning exchange, maybe try and get shelter at checkouts or something. It's already getting late though. I don't think we'll have time to make it. Maybe some of us will. I was fine for that first week out in the dark, after all, but then how often can I keep getting lucky? I'm only writing this for a sense of closure, I guess, for me or anyone who finds this. If this is the final entry here, I hope whoever is reading this is doing so from outside of this place. My biggest fear? If I do die tonight, I'll just wake up here again in the morning. Note: this is the last entry. It is assumed that while attempting to reach the checkout settlement, he was separated from the rest of his group by pursuing SCP-3008-2 instance and happened upon the exit. Interesting. But there was also a thing in here. I want the autopsy log. Is there anything else in here that I can click on? I want the autopsy log, but it doesn't look like it. Looks like it's just this. Unfortunately, there is no autopsy log. Oh well, that was IKEA. That one's really interesting. I want more of this one. This one was really cool. This one, I would take a whole book on this one. But onward to the next one. The staircase. More water, more water. We love water, yippee. Alrighty. SCP-87. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-87 is located on the campus of The doorway leading to SCP-87 is constructed of reinforced steel with an electro-release lock mechanism. It has been disguised to resemble a janitorial closet consistent with the design of the building. The lock mechanism on the doorknob will not release unless volts are applied in conjunction with a counterclockwise rotation of the key. The inside of the door is lined with 6 centimeters of industrial foam padding. Due to the results of the final exploration, see Document 87-4, no personnel are permitted to access SCP-87. SCP-87 is an unlit platform staircase. Stairs descend on a 38-degree angle for 13 steps before reaching a semicircular platform of approximately 3 meters in diameter. Descent direction rotates 180 degrees at each platform. The design of SCP-87 limits subjects to a visual range of approximately 1.5 flights. A light source is required for any subjects exploring SCP-87, as there are no lighting fixtures or windows present. Lighting sources brighter than 75 watts have shown to be ineffective, as SCP-87 seems to absorb excess light. Subjects report and audio recordings confirm that distressed vocalizations from what is presumed to be a child between the ages of and which seems to be single digit by this one, and a double digit, so I'm assuming it's probably like 7 to like 12, is my guess there. The source of the distress calls is estimated to be located approximately 200 meters below the initial platform. However, any attempts Attempts to descend the staircase have been failed to bring subjects closer to the source. The depth of descent calculated from exploration 4, the longest exploration, is shown to be far beyond both the possible structure of both the building and geological surroundings. At this time, it is unknown if SCP-87 has an endpoint. SCP has undergone 4 video-recorded explorations by Class D personnel. Each subject conducting an exploration has encountered SCP-87-1, which appears as a face with no visible pupils, nostrils, or mouth. The nature of SCP-87-1 is entirely unclear, but it has been determined that it is not the source of the bleeding. Subjects exhibit feelings of intense paranoia and fear when faced with SCP-87-1, but it is undetermined whether said feelings are abnormal or simply natural reactions. That would be this fella. And this fella actually looks like the slug from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. This guy. Kinda looks like this guy. Like, you guys see that, right? Yeah? Yeah, you guys understand it. Where were we? Right here. Let's start closing some of these. Bump, bump, bump. There you go. But yeah, it kinda looks like the slug from that. Addendum. Over a period of 2 weeks following Expedition 4, several members of the staff and students from the redacted campus reported knocking at a variable rate of 1 to 2 seconds per knock coming from the interior of SCP-87. The door leading to SCP-87 has been fitted with 6 cm thick industrial padding. All reports of knocking have ceased. Authorized personnel may refer to documents 87-1 through 87-4 for transcripts of Exploration 1 through 4. Let's go for document 1. D8432 is a 43-year-old Caucasian male of average build and appearance and unremarkable psychological background. Class D designation is a result of demotion due to mishandling SCP. SCP-8432 is equipped with a 75-watt flood lamp with battery power capable of lasting 24 hours. A handheld camcorder fitted with a transmission stream, and an audio headset for communication with Dr. at control. D8432 steps through the doorway onto initial platform. Despite the wattage, the flood lamp only illuminates the first 9 steps. The second platform is not visible. D-Class. It's fucking dark. Doctor, is your flood lamp functioning properly? D-Class shines the light out the door and into the academic building hallway. The light reaches significantly further. D-Class, yeah, it's working. It just won't light these stairs all the way down. Doctor, thank you. Please continue. D-Class descends for 13 steps before reaching the second platform. The platform is in the shape of a semicircle with an apparently concrete surface and walls. There is no distinct markings aside from nondescript patches of dust, dirt, or wear consistent with that which is found in a typical concrete stairwell. D-Class rotates 180 degrees to begin the descent down the second flight, then pauses. Doctor, reason for stopping? I'm just gonna give him a slight vocal dissonant so you can tell who I'm talking about. I don't want to keep saying Doctor and D-Class. You hear that? There's a fucking kid down there. Sounds like one. None of the described audio is feeding through the camera or mic at this time. Could you please describe the sound? It's young, either female or a very young boy. It's crying and sobbing and saying, pause, please, help, please. Yeah, it keeps repeating that and crying. Can you estimate its distance from your current location? Fuck, I don't know, maybe 200 meters down? Please continue to the next flight. The subject descends another 13 steps. As he reaches the landing, audio of the child as described is picked up. The child alternates between sobbing, wailing, and the words please, help, and down here. The level of audio is consistent with D-Class reports of it being approximately 200 meters below. Can you still hear the crying? Yeah. We're picking up as well. Please continue down. Stop if you notice any change in the audio or environment. Subject descends another 3 flights of stairs before stopping. Keep going. Please. D-Class continues another 17 flights, total of 22 flights before stopping. There are no visual changes in the environment, and each flight has been a consistent 13 steps. I'm not getting any fucking closer to that kid. Stereo audio confirms that the crying noise has not increased in volume and remains approximately 200 meters below the subject. Noted. Please continue. The subject continues for another 28 flights before stopping. 50 flights total. D-Class is standing on the 51st landing, counting the initial ground level landing. D-Class is estimated to be 200 meters below the initial platform. 34 minutes have elapsed. The volume of the crying has not increased. I feel a little uneasy. You spent a long time in a dark, unknown stairwell. It's natural. Please continue. The subject hesitates before stepping down onto the next stair. As the subject moves forward, the flood lamp illuminates a face located approximately at the bottom of the flight, SCP-87-1. It appears to be the same size and shape as a human head, except it's lacking a mouth, nostrils, and pupils. The face is completely motionless, but is making direct eye contact, indicating its awareness of D-Class. Fuck, what the fuck is that? Shit, holy fucking shit, what the fuck? Can you please describe what you see? It's some sort of fucking person face thing, and it's fucking looking right at me. Fuck, it's looking right at me. Is it moving? No, it's just staring at me. Fuck, it's creepy. Please approach and further illuminate the entity. Fuck, I don't want to fuck. The face jerks forward about 50 centimeters directly at D-Class. Fuck. D-Class enters a panic state and rapidly ascends SCP-87. D-Class reaches the ground floor in 18 minutes, at which time he collapses and passes out. There is no sign of SCP-87-1. Review of the footage indicates an equal number of flights and steps ascending as descending. Audio of the crying and pleading remains at the same volume until the last flight, at which point it ceases. Medical reports indicate collapse was a result of rapid ascension of the stairs, causing fatigue. I see. Time for document 2. And I twisted my neck the wrong way. Fuck. Fuck. Yeah. Now my neck hurts. I am a talented individual. Haha. Okay. D-9035 is a 28-year-old African-American male of strong build. Psychological background indicates no abnormalities except an extreme hatred for women. What the fuck? Subject has an extensive record of data expunged. D-9035 is equipped with a 100-watt flood lamp with battery power capable of lasting 24 hours, a handheld camcorder fitted with a transmission stream, and an audio headset for communication with the doctor at control. D-Class is also equipped with a backpack containing 100 small LED lights with adhesive backs and battery lives of approximately 3 weeks. Lights turn on and off by compressing them. D-Class shines the flood lamp down the first flight of stairs. Despite the extra wattage, the light does not illuminate beyond the 9th step. You want me to go down there, Doc? Please shine your flood lamp outside of SCP-87 to verify it is functioning properly. D-Class shines the light into the hallway. Comparison with the footage from Expedition 1 confirms it is indeed brighter. Thank you. Please continue to the first landing. Hey, Doc, I know what you said and all, but I don't think I want to go there. Please continue to the first landing. Doc, look, as per our earlier conversation, please continue to the first landing. D-Class pauses for 18 seconds and descends 13 steps to the first landing and stops. Is that a kid? Please remove one of the adhesive lights and affix it to the wall on the landing. Doc, you hear that? That a kid down there? That's unconfirmed. Please affix an adhesive light to the wall and verify its functions. D-Class hesitates, then removes one of the lights from his backpack and adheres it to the wall. He presses the light and it turns on. Please turn off your flood lamp. D-Class hesitates again before turning off the lamp. The LED light illuminates the landing, but does not extend beyond the first step either way. Thank you. You may turn your flood lamp back on. Please continue to descend. At each landing, affix a LED light to the wall and turn it on. If you notice anything unusual, please report it. D-Class turns the flood lamp back on, then descends the next flight of stairs. As he sets foot on the landing, the audio picks up sounds of pleading and crying, consistent with those of the first exploration. Can you still hear the previously reported audio? Yeah, she sounds about 150, maybe 200 meters down. Am I supposed to get her? Look, Doc, I don't do well with kids. Please place the light and continue down until you notice anything unusual. The subject adheres the light to the wall and turns it on, then continues to the next landing. He adheres the third LED light to the wall and turns it on. D-Class continues in this manner for the next 25 flights before stopping. I don't think I'm getting any closer to the kid, Doc. How far below would you estimate the source of the sound to be? Same as before, 150 to 200 meters down. Thank you. Please proceed. D-Class continues in the same fashion for the next 24 flights. At the 51st landing, he stops. Footage shows an arced gouge in the concrete wall, estimated to be approximately 50 centimeters long and 10 centimeters wide. First step down from the landing appears to be completely smashed into rubble. You see that? Yes, can you please describe what you see? Looks like something slashed at the wall, and the step over here is all crumbled up and stuff. The slash marks looks really smooth. D-Class touches the gouge mark. Yeah, it's smooth. Feels like glass. Thank you. Please continue. Look, Doc, I think I've gone far enough. Please continue, as per our agreement. I don't want to be doing this, agreement or not. D-Class sits over the destroyed step and continue. I'm assuming data expense, they had an argument. D-Class steps over the destroyed steps and continues down the staircase. Nothing is notable at the next landing. D-Class adheres an LED light to the wall and continues in the same fashion for another 38 flights. The sound of the crying and pleading has still not gotten closer. D-Class is on the 89th landing and 74 minutes have elapsed from the beginning of the exploration. Subject is estimated to be about 350 meters below the initial platform. D-Class, I feel like the kid's just trying to lure me down here, Doc. I think it's time for me too. D-Class stops talking and moving as the flood lamp illuminates 87-1. The face is staring directly at D-Class, again indicating awareness of the subject's presence. Although 87-1 appears to be unmoving, its location is 38 flights below the initial encounter and Exploration 1, indicating it is mobile. Is there a reason you stopped? Unresponsive. D-Class breathing grows labored. 87-1 remains immobile for an additional 13 seconds. SCP-87-1 blinks. I'm not mimicking him yelling incomprehensibly. 87-1 jerks forward until approximately 90 centimeters from D-Class. Subject turns and flees up the stairs. Please relax and calm down. Turn around, we need a closer look at the face. D-Class ignores the doctor and continues rapid ascent. He continues to scream incomprehensibly. D-Class, can you hear me? Please slow down. D-Class is unresponsive and continues rapidly climbing the stairs. His screaming diminishes to babbling. After ascending 72 flights, D-Class collapses on the 17th landing. D-Class, can you hear me? D-Class is unresponsive, but labored breathing can be heard through the audio feed. For the next 14 minutes, D-Class is immobile. The visual feed is black and audio picks up only the subject's breathing and the continuous pleading coming from below. After 14 minutes and 32 seconds of unchanging visual and audio feeds, the sound of a rapid heartbeat not consistent with a human heartbeat and a low cracking noise is heard. 7 seconds later, D-Class gasps and revives, continuing his ascent of the stairs rapidly and wordlessly. The heartbeat and cracking ceases, and nothing abnormal is detected on the visual feed. He remains unresponsive. D-Class exits SCP-87 and sits on the floor outside of the entrance. D-Class then enters a catatonic state in which he has not yet recovered. That's fucked. But he hates women, so. Hey, I hit the back button. Now to the third one. This is a good horror thing. I'm sad that there's not the fourth document. That one got expunged. D9884 is a 23-year-old female of average build and appearance. Psychological background indicates a history of depression. Subject has a minimal record of using excessive force. To data expunged. D9884 is equipped with a 75-watt flood lamp with a battery power capable of lasting 24 hours, a handheld camcorder fitted with a transmission stream, and an audio headset for communication with the doctor at control. D-Class is also equipped with a backpack containing 3.75 liters of water, 15 nutrient bars, and a thermal blanket. D-Class stands on the ground level of SCP-87. The flood lamp illuminates only the first 9 steps. LED light placed on the walls during the last exploration are not visible. Please descend the first flight and examine the landing wall. D-Class descends 13 steps and stops at the landing. There is no trace of the LED light at the location. Footage from Exploration 2 indicates at the place from Exploration 2 indicates it was placed. It's just a dirty concrete wall. There's like nothing on it. No, wait, it's a little bit sticky right here. D-Class indicates a spot on the wall the LED light should have been located. There's a child crying down there. She's begging for help and crying. Thank you. Please continue down the steps until you notice anything unusual. D-Class descends upon reaching the next landing. Audio of the crying child consistent with the prior 2 explorations is picked up. No LED lights appear to be present on any of the landing walls. D-Class continues with no incident until she reaches the 17th landing. Ew, there's something on the ground here and it smells really bad. It's all sticky and stuck on my shoe. Ugh, it's so gross. Video feed confirms presence of substance occupying a space approximately 50 centimeters in diameter. Can you describe the scent? It kind of smells like old rusty metal and pee. Thank you. Please continue until you notice anything else. D-Class continues to the 51st landing without incident. 51st landing remains unchanged from the previous expedition, and similar observations are made. D-Class is asked again to descend until anything unusual is noticed. Subject continues her descent until the 89th landing is reached. The video feed jerks and the subject yells, "Ah, fuck, there's a hole in the ground, I almost fell in." Video feed confirms the presence of a hole approximately 1 meter in diameter. Subject shines the floodlight down, revealing only blackness. Approximately 4 seconds pass, and a light of an indeterminate distance down the hole flicks on for approximately 2 seconds and then back off. There was a light down there. It's gone now, but it was there for like a second. Did you see it? Yes, can you estimate the depth of this hole? No way, it's too deep. At least a kilometer, like way more than a kilometer. Thank you. Can you still hear the sounds of the child? Uh-huh. She still sounds far away. I don't feel like I'm getting any closer. It's like for every step I take, she takes one down. Please continue down until you encounter anything unusual. D-Class continued to descend SCP-87 for approximately an hour, covering an initial 164 flights. She stops to rest on the 253rd landing, consuming 1 nutrient bar and several gulps of water. D-Class is at an estimated 1.1 kilometers below the initial landing, yet the sound of the child has not changed in volume. After pausing for 4 minutes, D-Class resumes her descent, making no stops for another 216 flights. 1.5 hours later, D-Class is on the 469th landing and approximately 1.8 kilometers from ground level. D-Class: I'm not getting anywhere. I think it's time I went back. I mean, going down is one thing, but this is a long climb back. You have been provided with food, water, and blankets to last you 24 hours. Please continue down. No, I think I'm gonna go back up. D-Class turns to the previous flight of stairs. Scrims. I'm not scrimming, sorry. SCP-87-1, the face, is directly behind D-Class, blocking her ascent. The face appears approximately 30 centimeters from the lens of the camera. Its eyes are fixed directly... You know what? I'm Googling this. I don't know centimeters very well. 30 centimeters, 2 inches. Almost, that's 11.8 inches. So that's like a foot. I have a tape measure here. I want to look at this. Holy fuck, that's close. For reference, people, if you stick your arm out, that may get to your elbow. So that's how close it is. It's about, if you stuck your arm out, about elbow. That is way within your personal bubble. Your personal space. That is like way within that. That's like almost kissing distance, by the way. Approximately 30 centimeters from the lens of the camera, its eyes are fixed directly on the lens, this time looking not at the subject, but the person viewing the video feed. The video feed glitches and freezes for 4 seconds, accompanied by a static-like screeching noise from the audio feed. It then cuts to bumpy visuals of D-Class descending the stairs rapidly. It's been following me. The whole time it's been right behind me. Oh god, it's right behind me. It was looking right at me. Doctor, please do something, please. Help me. Oh god, no, please. Get it away, please. No, please. I knew it was following me. Help, make it leave, please. No, it was looking at me. It was staring at me. It knew I was here. It's been watching me the whole time. Oh god, please help me. No, please. This continues in a similar fashion until the end. D-Class continues to scream and plead hysterically as she rapidly descends the staircase. The previously heard static-like screeching seems to overlay the audio feed, beneath which can still be heard the original sound of the crying child. Approximately 14 flights down, the video feed swings to show the area directly behind D-Class. The face is now approximately 20 centimeters from the camera lens. It's not staring at the subject, rather it's fixated on the camera lens, giving the illusion of it making eye contact with those viewing the footage. It is important to note that since the sighting of SCP-87-1, the sound of the girl crying and pleading has been increasing in volume, indicating D-Class is near the source. After an approximate 150 panicked flights of descent with 3 visual confirmations of SCP-87-1 still in pursuit, D-Class trips and appears to fall unconscious. Audio feed indicates strong proximity to the source of the crying. The static and screeching noise continue. Video feed shows yet another descending flight of stairs, indicating D-Class still has not reached the base of the stairwell. 12 seconds of motionlessness pass before the face comes in full view of the camera, eye contact being made directly with the viewer. Audio and video feed cuts out and no connection re-established. That is terrifying. Look at this scholarly snake. He's getting his degree. Hi, Patry. You just missed, if you just got here, you just missed SCP-87 and the documents regarding it. No, come on, go back. We were talking about this guy right here. This was 30 centimeters away from the last D-Class, which is not even a foot away from you. And if you stretch your arm out all the way in front of you, it's a little bit close to your elbow, but not quite the elbow between the shoulder and the elbow. So it's like basically kissing distance. It's like this guy right here. And this is SCP-87, a staircase. And thank you for the streamiversary wishes. I haven't been calling it the streamiversary because I've had this channel for like 10-something years. Yeah, about 10 years-ish. And I used to stream when I was a lot younger. And then I stopped streaming, and then I came back a year ago. So I'm calling my VTubing anniversary, because technically I streamed before that, but yeah. A little bit of lore. I want document 4. I want to know more. Why is it expunged, please? 106. The old man. This guy's pretty popular. The tuberversary. Exactly, Mr. Patry. Ooh. There's your patience. Okay, the little pop-ups. Yeah, we'll go with these. Your lore goes deeper than the infinite staircase. So true. The lore that I have glasses. Yeah, look at my... Wait. Look at my glasses. It makes me feel all smart and stuff, and it covers all of my eyes. Isn't that great? Alright, back into the corner. SCP-106. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. No physical interaction with the SCP-106 is allowed at any time. All physical interaction must be approved by no less than 2/3 vote from O5 Command, and may only extend to testing situations. All staff, research, security, Class D, etc., are to remain at least 20 meters away from the containment cell at all times, except for mandated maintenance and reevaluation checks. Thank God they all don't need different lenses. True. I almost did. I almost needed it. I almost got glasses and then 2 monocles. But I didn't. I found these glasses. They have nice big frames on them, and it's great. Containment cell must be held suspended in a secondary cell, the walls of which must be at least 30 meters distant from the outer walls of the first or primary cell. The secondary cell is to remain under total observation at all times, and be both illuminated and clear of any and all debris. Any items, movement, or non-normal activity noted within the secondary cell will result in a full site lockdown. Lockdown will be maintained until a situation normal dispatch is issued by Site Command. Any corrosion observed on the primary cell, secondary cell, staff members, or other site locations within 200 meters of SCP-106 are to be reported to site security immediately. Any objects or personnel lost to SCP-106 are to be deemed missing or killed in action. No recovery attempts are to be made under any circumstances. Note: SCP-106 does not have a docile state. Any reduction in activity or increased compliance from SCP-106 is to be deemed a luring tactic immediately preceding an aggressive action and treated as such. Mid-emergence. He has like portals and stuff. That's his thing. He can emerge from portals. No physical interaction with SCP is allowed at any time. All physical interaction must be approved by... We already read that. It's kept within a sealed container of 16 layers of lead-lined steel, each separated by no less than 18 centimeters of open space aside from minimal support struts. Said container is to be kept suspended by a continuous current system with a fluid medium. This medium is to be replaced in 48-hour cycles and constantly monitored for any corrosion intrusion. Any corrosion observed on any containment cell, surfaces, staff members, or other site locations within 200 meters of SCP-106 are to be reported to site security immediately. Oh, I don't have it on! No, that's the one thing I forgot! I knew I was forgetting something. I'll open it and redeem it. I'll redeem it for you, Patry. That's my bad. I heard this and I'm like, fuck. This is what I get for being away for a little over a week. It's over. It is so over, chat. It's opening. Don't worry, it's opening. And then, one of your redeems deleted itself. There we go. And to make up for it, I'm a clown. There we go. Ugh. Yep. Alright. Any corrosion observed on any containment? Yeah, we already did that. SCP-1, yeah, we already got that. Oh, your head fed just, Thanos snapped. Lovely. You gotta love it. Note: observation of SCP-106 has shown a slight resistance when passing through lead or other similar metals. The thickness of the material appears to make no difference. In addition, multiple layers of thin material appear to slow SCP-106, forcing it to enter and reemerge multiple times. Fluids also appear to temporarily confuse SCP-106. No, SCP can discontinue due to multiple surface breaches. Agitation system continued to disperse corrosion during breach event, resulting in multiple breaches and full containment failure. Cool, lovely. Ah, we're finally to the updated revision and I need my water. No physical interaction with SCP-106 allowed. Yes. Oh, wait, there's a little bit more to this one now. All physical interaction must be approved by no less than 2/3 of vote from OFA command. Any such interaction must be undertaken in AR2 maximum security sites after a general non-essential staff evaluation. All staff are to remain at least 60 meters away from the containment cell at all times, except for in the event of breach events. 106 is to be contained in a sealed container comprised of lead-lined steel. The container will be sealed within 40 layers of identical material, each layer separated by no less than 36 centimeters of empty space. Support struts between layers are to be randomly spaced. Container is to remain suspended no less than 60 centimeters from any surface by ELO IID electromagnetic supports. Secondary containment area is to be comprised of 16 spherical cells, each filled with the various fluids and a random assembly of surfaces and supports. Secondary containment is to be fitted with light systems capable of flooding the entire assembly with no less than 80,000 lumens of light instantly with no direct human involvement. Both containment areas are to remain under 24-hour surveillance. Any corrosion observed on any containment cell surfaces, staff members, or other site locations within 200 meters of SCP-106 are to be reported to site security immediately. Any objects or personnel lost to SCP-106 are to be deemed missing or killed in action. No recovery attempts are to be made under any circumstances. Continued research and observation have shown that when faced with highly complex/random assemblies of structures, SCP-106 can be confused, showing a marked delay on entry and exit from said structure. SCP-106 has also shown an aversion to direct sudden light. This is not manifested in any form of physical damage, but a rapid exit into the pocket dimension generated on solid surfaces. These observations, along with those of lead aversion and liquid confusion, have reduced the general escape incidence by 43%. The primary cells have also been effective in recovery incidents requiring recall protocol. Observation is ongoing. Description: SCP-106 appears to be an elderly humanoid with a general appearance of advanced decomposition. This appearance may vary, but the rotting quality is observed in all forms. SCP-106 is not exceptionally agile and will remain motionless for days at a time, waiting for prey. SCP-106 is also capable of scaling any vertical surface and can remain suspended upside down indefinitely. When attacking, SCP-106 will attempt to incapacitate prey by damaging major organs, muscle groups, or tendons, then pull disabled prey into its pocket dimension. SCP-106 appears to prefer human prey items in the 10 to 25 years of age bracket. SCP-106 causes a corrosion effect on all solid matter it touches, engaging a physical breakdown in materials several seconds after contact. This is observed as rusting, rotting, and cracking of materials and the creation of a black mucus-like substance, similar to the material coating SCP-106. This effect is particularly detrimental to living tissues and is assumed to be a pre-digestion action. Corrosion continues for 6 hours after contact, after which the effect appears to burn out. You're safe, Patrick. You're never safe, buddy. You're never safe. That's his preference. That's his preference. He'll still go for you. You're wanted, Patrick. SCP-106 is capable of passing through solid matter, leaving behind a large patch of its corrosive mucus. SCP is able to vanish inside solid matter, entering what is assumed to be a form of pocket dimension. SCP-106 is then able to exit this dimension from any point connected to the initial entry point, examples entering the inner wall of a room and exiting the outer wall, entering the wall and exiting from the ceiling. It is unknown if this is the point of origin for 106 or simply a layer created by SCP-106. Limited observation of this pocket dimension has shown it to be comprised mostly of halls and rooms with data expunged entry. This activity can continue for days, with some subjected individuals being released for the express purpose of hunting, recapture, data expunged. Addendum. Due to the exceedingly difficult to contain nature of SCP-106, SCP is to be reviewed every 3 months during a post-breach incident. Physical restraints are impossible, and direct physical damage appears to have no effect on SCP-106. Current SCP, as of revolves around basic observation and immediate response. Previous, more proactive special containment procedures have been recalled due to the events of breaches and notes on behavior. SCP-106 appears to go through long periods of dormancy, in which it will remain completely motionless for up to 3 months. The cause for this is unknown. However, it has been shown that this appears to be used as a lulling tactic. SCP-106 will emerge from this state in a very agitated state and will attack and abduct staff and cause gross damage to its containment cell and site at large. Recall protocol data expunged. This interdimension accessed by SCP-106 appears to be only accessible by SCP-106. Recording and transmission devices have been shown to still operate inside this dimension. Though recordings and transmissions are very degraded, it appears that SCP-106 will play with captured play and appears to have full control of time, space, and perception inside this dimension. SCP-106 appears data exposed until death. How long is it? Oh my goodness, why is this so long? Alright, we're reading this. Or, no, we'll do this because we're almost at the end, and then I will read this. I'll read the links. Recall protocol. In the event of a breach event by SCP-106, a human within the 10 to 25 years age bracket will be prepped for recall, with the compromised containment cell being replaced and restored for use. When the cell is ready, the lure subject will be injured, preferably via the breakage of a long bone, such as a femur, or a severing of a major tendon, such as the Achilles tendon. Lure subject will then be placed in the prep cell, and the sound emitted by said subject will be transmitted over the site public address system. SCP-106 will typically begin to gravitate towards the lure subject within 10 to 15 minutes after hearing the subject. Should SCP-106 not respond to the initial broadcast, additional physical trauma is to be administered to the lure subject at 20-minute intervals until SCP-106 responds. Multiple lure subjects may be used in the case of major breach events. SCP-106 typically enters a dormant state after finishing with a lure subject. In addition, subjects may data expunge. That's fucked up! After release by SCP-106, subjects have been missing for 2 hours. Subjects remain alive for 1 hour after release. That's crazy. Alright. Nope. Wrong one. That's that. There's something about data expunged that I could click on. Oh, right there. Oh, this is before that. I don't think there's any more clickables. Oh, there is. Young man. Alright. Let's see. We already clicked on those. Any more clickables? Or are we going to the young man? Going to the young man instead of the old man. How long is this? Okay. Nobody could like Corporal Lawrence. That's not to say that nobody tried, or that he was somehow unfriendly. Merely that he was one of the few that seemed to be weird or wired differently. However, in the trenches of World War I, normalcy was at best a relative term, and one that had minimal relation to of life, such as it was. Lawrence fought, listened to orders, and didn't disrupt other soldiers, and that was all that was required. So what if people felt increasingly uncomfortable around him? In a place where the flesh rotting off your bones while you were still alive was the baseline of concern, a little personality conflict ranked several levels below a paper cut. Lawrence, for his part, dealt with it as he always had. That is to say, remained totally unaware of the avoidance. The same way a man blind from birth cannot mourn the memory of color, Corporal Lawrence couldn't bemoan a lack of company. He was quiet, as he had nobody to talk to, and still, as he had nothing to do for a long stretch of time, the enemy trench, less than a mile away, had gone silent for several days, letting boredom and nervousness sink in even more than normal, coupled with the unease that seemed to radiate off of Lawrence like heat waves. The worst part was that there was no distinct reason to dislike the corporal. He was a plain man, average height, average build, bland of voice and action. Nobody could recall him raising his voice in joy or anger. He did have the occasional odd mannerisms, however. Tended to stare a beat or two longer than was acceptable at people. He rarely slept as well, and bunkmates said he would mumble in his sleep almost constantly. The content for those nocturnal ramblings, when they could be understood, were often odd and potentially unsettling. One private moved to another barracks when he heard the name of his daughter pass Corporal Lawrence's lips, followed by a bubbling, muffled giggle. That's fucked up. It was strongly theorized that he was sent over the trench by his comrades more out of a desire to have him away than for his minimal combat skill. He and 14 of his fellows were sent across the nightmarishly scarred waste of the no man's land between the trenches to reconnoiter the enemy trench and secure it if possible. Many seemed to hope that Lawrence would have the opportunity to prove his devotion to his country by making the ultimate sacrifice for it. It was while he was gone, that 3-day gap, as the men held their breath, waiting for a surprise volley of shells, that someone started asking questions. Whereas before it was almost taboo to speak of Corporal Lawrence, since the departure of both him and his aura, rumors seemed to descend with the passion of the denied. Nobody remembered him even talking of home. No smelling letters came, no soggy dirt-streaked letters left. He mentioned his dreams often and griped sometimes that the men over-missed foods or pleasures, but never with any real passion. Questions started to float among even the higher levels of command. Nobody was able to actually find his station orders. He'd come in with a squad of reinforcements transferred from France, but there was no paperwork. The rest of the reinforcement squad had never seen the man before he'd been lumped in with them the night before the trip, along with the snips and scraps of other squads decimated by the Germans. Whispers filtered among the grunts of the corporal being a curse. Nearly every man who'd shared a bunkhouse with him had gotten trench foot, and the rooms he haunted always seemed to smell more like musty and sickly sweet, even for the trench. The men sent over the no man's land with Corporal Lawrence heard and cared for none of this. Just another man among many, all with death certificates awaiting a stamp that could fall at any moment. They moved fast and low from crater to crater, slipping over slick mud and barbed wire, the only thing that seemed to grow in that blasted waste. Charging the last spurt into the trench, they were greeted not with the harsh bark of German orders and rifles, but a dense, closed silence. Preparing for ambush, the men started to filter out into the tunnels and halls of the trench. The men, already nervous, were not calmed by their investigation. The trenches stank of molds, sweat, and thin undertaste of rotten fruit. A vile, cloying slime seemed to have pooled in every divot and crack, sticky as glue and itch on the flesh. In a world where rats and insects would try to snatch food from your mouth even as you ate, they saw nothing alive, not so much as a fly. An armory lay in chaos, munitions spilled on the ground, rifles tossed like picked up sticks, a mess hall that had been reduced to ruins, the tables and chairs piled in the center of the room, charred and twisted, the rashes seemingly stamped into the dirt by many feet, and still nothing alive or dead was found by the increasingly anxious soldiers. Private Dixon found the first body and managed to cry out before vomiting. They knew it had been a man only because nothing else of that size could have been there. It lay on the floor of the barracks, the entire floor. The flesh of it had been smeared, somehow spread like butter over the rough dirt floor. Bones already pitted and rotten, stuck out at random angles like dead trees in a still swamp. The skull rested on one of the highest bunks facing the doorway. 10 gleaming white fingertip bones crammed into the cracked eye sockets. As one man went to examine it, he found the back of the skull had been crushed open, the rotting, sagging sponge of a tongue stuffed into the otherwise dry cavity. More remains were found, each seemingly more unsettling and strange than the last. A ring of hands in a sandbagged watch post, 10 of them, fingers interlaced like a bracelet and wrists ragged and broken. two men in a tunnel, skin leathery and thin as mummies, eye sockets staring and empty, mouths locked impossibly wide, their clothes mere rags under an oily black scum. The latrine sent even the hardest back gagging and shivering, overflowing with excrement and offal goblets of meat bobbed and oozed in the foul sludge, the whole surface dotted with what looked like thousands of clean, slick eyeballs, nerves and tendons fanning out like goldfish tails. This is gruesome as fuck. Corporal Lawrence was the first to find the hole, the other men loudly debating the better part of valor and their rapid withdrawal from the nightmare trench. It was small, in a section of fresh digging, the start of a new arm of trenches projecting closer to the enemy lines. No more than 4 feet across, it seemed to be the accidental uncovering of a natural chamber, the empty blackness of it defying investigation. Private Dixon recovered and blessedly numb from his previous ordeals, saw the corporal prod the edge with his boot, then crouched to peer in, then suddenly slide in headfirst before the private could do so much as utter a shout of question. Whoever wrote this had a lot of time to get into the details. Holy. I know, like, someone's angry, like, yeah, that's good, that's great, I love that. It's so fucking weird. The private was a good soldier and rushed to the perceived distress of his fellow. When questioned later, he could provide little illumination as to what happened over the 2 minutes Corporal Lawrence spent in the hole. He could see nothing. The light of a torch seemingly gobbled up a few feet into that dense blackness. There were sounds, the rustles of movement over loose stone or rubble, an odd liquid shifting, a dry rustle that made him think of the insects' husks he'd used to collect during the summer. As he shouted for aid, there was a sudden uprolling of a repulsive stench, like a reptile house gone sour and old, and his fellow soldiers found him retching helplessly beside the hole when they came around the turn. They should work in practical special effects for movies, lol. Clearly they got the imagery. Yeah, I know, like, I don't even... Who thinks of any of, like, what I've just read? Who thinks of any of that? Like, actually, that's crazy. It was as they rushed to Private Dixon's aid that the hand emerged from the hole. They stopped and raised rifles as one body, roaring for the owner of that pale, trembling hand to identify himself. As they watched, another hand joined the first, followed by the pale, shivering head of Corporal Lawrence. He was streaked and smeared with a tarry black ooze, hacking and coughing thinly as he hauled his body up beside that of the gasping private. As he moved to help the men, the corporal vomited up a heavy stream of the same repulsive slime that coated his body in smears and globs, his curled, shuddering body voiding more of it into his saturated, fouled pants. They were hesitant to touch him, finally doing so after the seemingly endless river of grime stopped pouring from him. He was insensible, eyes rolling and wide, body as limp as a boned fish. The men quit the trench with all speed. Half dragging the corporal, they ran with no thought to cover or death, only escape. They crossed in record time, falling into their home trench with so much cordwood. Gasping and shivering, one man known to have bludgeoned a German to death with a brick curled on the floor in a sobbing heap. Commanders moved quickly, isolating the men and trying to calm the most lucid for a report. What spilled out would have been immediately dismissed as lies and hallucination were it not for the earnest, pleading stares of those reporting. Command calmed them with explanations of battle fatigue and strange gas weapon tests, and shared silent, focused stares as the cowed men were ushered out. Corporal Lawrence had little to report. Of his time in the hole, he could or would say little. He stated that he had slipped and fallen into what may have been some long-blocked underground pool, or perhaps a buried latrine. Of the sounds and smells reported by the private, he had nothing to say, only that he had struggled a short time, then managed to get back out just as the men arrived. Truly, he seemed none the worse or for wear. In fact, he seemed in better spirits than many had remembered ever seeing him, favoring the commanders with a wide, giddy smile as he dismissed with a warning to not discuss the events. The corporal proved a changed man over the next few days. He was more talkative, but quickly had men wishing for his old, unsettling silence. He rambled about the joys of closed spaces, of creation and destruction that seemed to spring up all around them, about human pleasures missed, the dimensions and ages of which made some men threaten Corporal Lawrence with a quiet and ignorable death, which only seemed to stretch the near constant smile on his face even wider. Private Dixon, one of the corporal's bunkmates, whispered to a friend that he had woken once to find the corporal standing over him in the night, his eyes as bright and flat as silver dollars. They found the private the next day snarled in the barbed wire. His intestines spread nearly 10 feet around him in every direction. Holy fuck! Oh, there's a picture down here. Oh, yeah, I've seen that picture. Not one man from the trench survived the Great War, although a few days in battle, a wave of sickness took the trench a few days after Private Dixon's death. A strange wasting sickness. It seemed to eat the flesh like acid. Men waking to find previously healthy flesh eaten down to the bone, oozing and blackened. A sergeant was found in a latrine, beset by a living carpet of rats. They refused to quit the body even when shot and attacked several men before the body was recovered. Relief finally came, the bulk of the men being sent to various hospitals, many wasting away before they even reached a bed. Corporal Lawrence was remanded to a French mental ward, transferred after several complaints from the hospital proper where he was first sent. It seemed his behavior hinted at a growing mental imbalance, culminating with an attempted sexual assault of a nurse, which ended with the loss of three fingers from her right hand and the vision in her right eye. The corporal would rant quietly to the other patients, whispers about endless halls, pursuits in the dark, flesh laid out in pages like a book. It was dismissed as so much war fatigue, even as his behavior grew less violent and more unsettling. He vanished several times from the ward, only to appear several hours later as if nothing had happened. Impressed, he would begin to sing My Bonnies Lie Over the Sea in an endless monotone until the doctors left exasperated. Others on the ward clamored to be transferred from the whispering madman. A stale, musty foulness seemed to sit in the air wherever he stayed, and incidents of infection and the strange, consuming sickness that had beset his home trench seemed to follow him like a cloud. Numerous attempts were made to transfer the man, but only to be met with bureaucratic confusion. No records were found of the man, no entry papers, commendations or incidents, not even a birth certificate. Through it all, he sat for hours on end, cross-legged on his bed, occasionally humming tunelessly or rambling off the names of his wardmates between short, bubbling giggles. Corporal Lawrence and 18 men vanished on November 18, vanished one November night between a 5-minute nurse rotation at 3 in the morning. The room reeked of rust, oil, mold, and sweet rot. Thick black swaths of crumbling ooze coated the beds and several of the walls, wild patches of it smearing and eating into the floor. Of the men, there was no sign, at first. As they searched, one nurse shifted a bed aside only to shriek and nearly tip across one of the sunken, reeking depressions on the floor. In a tight, perfect spiral were what appeared to be hundreds of teeth resting neatly on the floor. After counting, they accounted for the total of all the teeth of every living soul in that ward but one. The corporal was never found, nor were the men. The incident was swallowed by the constant barrage of horrors from the front and forgotten with ease. Stories of a cursed trench warded across the front lines often squelched from being bad luck. Still they came, stories of strange deaths, of disappearing men, found days later alive but broken and twisted beyond comprehension. Stories of a strange dark figure stalking the bomb-riddled towns in Europe. This may be the only image of Corporal Lawrence ever recorded, taken several days after his return from the hole in the German trench. I think this is a real photo. I'm pretty sure this is a real photo of someone. Man, this one right here, this whole thing is actually probably one of the few ones, like, tonight, paired with the sound, like the background music I got going on, that has actually made me feel, like, uneasy. That was the black mucus-like substance that turned Corporal Lawrence into SCP-106. Now we get to read. There's a data expunge, something that I could click on. Where is that? What? SCP will attack and collect multiple prey. There it is. That's one. Treats. Oh. How far have we gone? We've gone for 2 hours. SCP-106 might be the last one I do. How long is... Oh, this one's really long, yeah. SCP-106 will probably be the last one I do. And then if we decide to do it again, we can pick up at 5,000. Gamer subs, drink it a bit. Water. We love good water. Water is great. Alright, where's my chat? I was checking stuff out. There we go. Treats. I would like to here again state that 106 is not, as is commonly believed, a basic predator, on par with an advanced shark. SCP-106 is a sentient being, albeit a totally alien one. 106 appears to be aware of several things beyond the scope of pure instinct and genetic memory. SCP-106 consistently breaches at moments where recovery and containment are most difficult. A fox may see his way out of a trap, but only a man will wait for his captors to look away to escape. Dr. Alec, on sentience and contained humanoids. For fuck's sake, where the hell is it? Agent Wang sighed, rubbing his face through his mask. The night was chill, but all 3 men were sweating badly. All around them surged horrors, monsters, demons, fantasy beasts, and animate objects, giggling and roaring as they wandered. The 3 men in gas masks and armored suits looked underdressed, if anything. As they stood, one man suddenly reached out, a gloved fist grabbing a mildly drunk zombie and tugging it close for a few seconds before releasing him back to the surge of humanity, the undead beast cursing and stumbling away. Fucking Halloween bullshit, we need to seal this whole area. Agent Drac shook his head, gesturing to the traveling packs of costumed revealers. The railcar popped too close to the city. It wasn't even supposed to be on this track. They think MC&D might have buggered up something. Can't clamp the whole town without major fallout. And what the hell do they think will happen now? The old bastard's out there and we can't even fucking find him. Wang kicked a discarded wrapper, glaring through tinted lenses at everyone who didn't have to chase hell for a living. Jack patted the fuming man on the back. Easy, big fella. Command figures the old man take a couple of people, then does his lazy crocodile thing. That's easier to cover than why a major city has to be quarantined on Halloween. Parks until now more or less than a statue, that's a person. Parks, until now more or less a statue, crackled with his broken, rusty voice. How hard is it to find a rotten old man that kills everything it touches? Wang shook his head, still scanning the crowd. He just looks like an old man most of the time. He can look however he wants. Normally we tell people to just follow the screaming. Fat fucking lot of good that does now. Where the hell is our expert? A brittle, creaking chuckle rolled over the radio. Harkin says he's as much an expert on SCP-106 as a plane crash driver is an expert on aviation. They won't field lab techs until our initial eval. We're on our own for now. The 3 men stood, awash in horrors, looking for one that would put all of the rest to shame. The drunk angel wandered on the edges of the fire. Demons, zombies, and... Why do I keep doing that? My back hurts. The drunk angel wandered on the edge of the fire. Demons, zombies, and pop culture icons swirled around her, moving like a single mass before scattering into small clusters and pairs, only to surge back together again. The bonfire seemed to roar in time with the pounding music, the field chosen for the sudden teen invasion, just far enough to avoid noise complaints, but not far enough to attract unwanted adult oversight. Alcohol flowed, people giggled, and the sharp snap of lowered inhibitions and teen angst was thick in the chill air. The night was still young, yet already several pairs had drifted from the comfort of the fire to seek other comforts in the dark, private woods ringing the fields. The angel glared at the silent trees, taking another pull on an almost empty beer. She drained it, then tossed it down to meet a holocaust of its brothers being slowly kicked and stamped into the soft dirt. She would be there, being held in warm arms, kissing a warm mouth, but no, she decided to run with the one boy who seemed to think the moment before a party was the best time to bring up his worries about our relationship. Bastard. The angel, now with lopsided wings, started to wander to those cool, dark trees. Fuck him. If he wanted to toss her aside, fine. That didn't mean she wouldn't get to have fun still. She giggled a bit, smiling for the first time in a while. Why not have a little fun, play a trick, and get her treat? She laughed, the flush of her wicked amusement and booze high in her cheeks. She'd seen one of the boys from her study hall wander back here. Maybe she could find him and get a little better acquainted. She walked into the cooler darkness, the occasional giggle, snip of whisper, or a flash of a glow stick, the only indication of life. She stumbled over a root, staggering forward and bracing her hand on the slimy tree trunk. She yanked her hand away almost instantly. The gritty, oozing texture made her palm burn, the loss of support almost sending the angel sprawling. She squinted her hand, making out a smear of gritty, fibrous jelly coating it, the burning getting worse as she noticed the odd pits eaten into the trunk of the tree. The angel shivered, suddenly sober and very aware of the fact that nobody knew where she was, that she knew of nobody close enough to even call for her. She tried to rub her palm against her poofy skirt, not noticing the red and black smears she made on it. Eyes wide and staring, some deep, dim part of her primordial brain ringing in alarm. She started to walk quickly, focusing on the waving beacon of the bonfire, trying to make herself feel silly to ignore the swelling, unreasonable panic. A twig broke behind her. She froze, a white shade, one hand dripping blood from a corrosive injury she would have been horrified about had she looked. The angel didn't dare look back, but she was terrified to run, to hear something following, reaching, grabbing. Moments passed, filled with nothing. The angel finally resolved to run right at the moment when a thin, bony hand reached through her costume and into the muscles of her back like a nasty child squishing his hands in the cake. She screamed, or tried to. The sound squelched to little more than a harsh bark by the sheer volume of pain. Limbs suddenly boneless and leaden, nerves dead except for agony. She felt fingers touching her ribs from the inside. Even as they were slowly eaten away and corroded, her body shifting slowly to face the hand's owner. The flicker of the distant fire showed something withered, dark, slimy, and pulpy soft, but wiry and strong. Woolly? Wiry? I don't know. The two milky black eyes glistened at her in a too large head hovering over a frozen corpse grin, teeth thin and chipped. The pinned angel gasped and blubbered, feeling an oily, burning corruption seeping into her body. Oh. I looked at the stop streaming button and I thought it said start streaming. I'm like, did my stream crash? The pinned angel gasped and blubbered, feeling an oily, burning corruption seeping into her body, trying to ignore a slow falling feeling, trying not to feel the ground below her turning mushy and soft, swallowing both figures inch by inch. It leaned closer, and despite the searing horror of that face, some still sane part of her welcomed what was surely an approaching end to her pain. It lingered, however, the other twisted claw of a hand rising as the ground started to swallow their hips. Real, I've done that so many times, yeah. There's no indication that your stream ends, because I looked over, and I just saw, on my OBS, welcome to the chat room. I'm like, fuck. But no, it seems fine. Seems. So we'll see. The new touch made the angel lucid with a new fear. Her face locking on those rotten eyes, she recognized the shine behind them, and started to scream with a new repulsed horror, even as it started to pull Both are dressed in skin away in soldered ribbons. Jason ran, lungs burning, trying to yell for help between sharp gasps of air. Oh, my stream chat will sometimes just crash repeatedly for some reason. Could be that. Maybe. Hopefully it's just that. I mean, you're still here. You haven't said anything about it crashing, so I'm assuming it's not crashed. Alright. Jason ran, lungs burning, trying to yell for help between sharp gasps of air. His Batman costume felt like such a joke now, running between streetlights, feeling that warm spot of pee on his pants. Where was everyone? It had been so stupid trying to be the big brave kids and go out alone. Now he really was alone, and his friends had probably been eaten. He didn't know this for sure, but when the boogeyman dropped out of a tree and started shoving kids into a wall that was suddenly like quicksand, it was probably a safe bet. He hadn't even been able to do anything, just watch as those long bony fingers grabbed his two best friends and just yanked them away like dolls, barely screaming before the squishy black wall gulped them up. The boogeyman had hooked his fingers into David's eyes like Dad had taught him to hold a bowling ball, and Jason was abruptly sick down the front of his costume, the half-digested mass of chocolate looking unsettlingly like the goo that had been splattered everywhere while the tall, lanky, naked old man had landed out of the tree. He stopped, stumbling to his knees, coughing and gagging, wailing out a weak scream for help to the dim night. It drifted off, unheeded, the boy unable to even sob, too numb with exhaustion and horror. He barely noticed the footsteps until they were nearly on top of him. He looked up, ready to beg whatever adult he saw for help. Then he saw the legs, thin, black, the feet looking pulpy and flat with age, the concrete under them turning cracked and gooey. Jason looked up more, shaking more and more violently. The withered hips, the sticky, soft chest that didn't rise or fall, and finally, that nightmare head. Looking like some kind of rotten pumpkin, but black and oily as a blanket of tar. The eyes locked on the boys, as shiny and black as a flashlight in the basement. The teeth parted, some kind of rolling, slimy blackness shifted inside. Jason stumbled back, gasping, trying to scream but unable to even breathe correctly. He stared at the boogeyman as he rolled something in the palm of that thin, beaten hand, pulling it between two bony fingers and lifting it to his mouth. The boy thought it was candy or something, but then he saw a glint of metal. It was his best friend Anthony's front tooth. It still had the bracket from his braces on it. The boogeyman placed it between his teeth gently, the tooth still white and clean in that filthy, dripping mouth. He seemed to hold it there for a moment, then his jaw bunched, and the tooth shivered, then burst like a jawbreaker under a car tire. He chewed it twice, then just stopped, still staring at the boy. It seemed to go on and on, Jason unsure if he was even breathing anymore, knowing this was the end. This was what happened when you didn't listen. When you went off alone, the boogeyman came and took you, forever and always. But he didn't. He turned, seeming ready to take a step, then fell forward, slowly like an old man tripping over a shoe. The black monster almost hit the ground, but just fell through it, like it was made of air. Nothing but a black smear left behind on the concrete, and a tiny corroded bracket from the tooth. When they found him hours later, he'd gripped it hard enough to embed it into his palm. The boy sat, comforted and miserable. His mother had been nice enough to let him at least wear his Mario costume, but even he had to admit he probably was too sick to walk around the house, let alone outside for hours in the cold. He'd woken up vomiting, and as it had just continued, his parents hoping for the best, but finally forced to cancel the trick-or-treating. As sad as he was, they did try their best to make it up to him. There was a small bowl of candy for him, with the promise any leftovers would be given to him, and he could watch all the scary movies he liked. Knock knock. Trick or treat. Aw, such a cute turtle. And what are you, honey? I'm Rapunzel. Well, here you go, princess. Thank you. He hadn't even wanted to help pass things out. It was better to just try and ignore things. Just pretend everyone else was inside too. That made it better. He tugged the floppy hat down a bit, trying to convince himself that his tummy wasn't feeling like a hedgehog was rolling around inside. He watched the zombies lurch around the screen, half wishing that the screaming people running for the house were kids from school. These entries are actually well written and freaky as hell. I know, it's crazy. This is like one of the most popular ones though, so I'm not exactly surprised that it's like one of the most well-written ones. Knock knock. Trick or treat. Ooh, what a nice vampire. I'm Dracula. Rawr. So fearsome. Here you go. Thanks, bitch. That's exactly what was said. That's how they said it, yeah. Turned up the movie. This... Rawr XD. He turned up the movie, the small groans of the walking dead drowning out the happy shouts of the living. The worst was going to be tomorrow, being forced to listen to everyone, watch them eating candy and talking about different houses and adventures. He sighed and swallowed thickly, his stomach doing another slow, oily roll. The boy pushed away the candy he'd been nibbling, suddenly sickened by even the smell. Knock. ... Hello? Oh. ... Are you with... Oh, God! The sudden rising shriek of his mother made the boy suddenly bolt upright, his stomach clenching even worse, but now totally forgotten. He couldn't see her from the couch, but he could hear noises, thumping and muffled shouts, and some kind of slimy-sounding rustle. Like sewage over dry leaves, he stood and started to peer around the short wall blocking the entryway, calling with a hesitant voice, scared of not getting a response, but almost equally afraid of getting one. He was only a feet away when the hand whipped around the hall, gripping it tight. It was a black, gray, and thin, as bony and thin-skinned as his grandmother's, with wide, flat nails gripping the paint hard. Where it touched, a black stain was spreading, like grease on a paper bag, the knuckles looking puffy and thick as they flexed. The boy stared, backing up slowly, calling again for his mother, his voice starting to plead. The hand flexed, actually sinking into the wall as the stain spread and a nightmare peeped around the corner. The head was thick, misshapen, and lumpy, like a poorly made scarecrow, the skin thin and jelly-like. Two hard, glistening eyes, the color of maggots, stared from above the thin, wide slash of a mouth. Their eyes locked, and the boy felt fear wash from his head down to his feet, his stomach boiling like a forgotten kettle. His nerves screamed to run away, but he couldn't make himself stop watching those eyes, feet moving slowly backwards like a sleepwalker. The hand and face shifted a bit, and there was a wet, heavy dragging noise as his mother was pulled into view. She was dead, or close to it, moving forward by the hand in her chest like a sock puppet. Bits of her black and pulpy, smears of that black stain eating into her face, her neck, her arms. Her chest was a black jelly-coated hole, the thing's other hand buried in it up to the wrist. The bloodless, ruined remains of his mother hanging from it like a rag doll. He screamed, then threw up. Little more than a mass of bile and half-digested snacks, then ran, shrieking up the stairs, begging for his mother, his father, anyone, someone. He slammed into the bathroom, shutting and locking the door, shaking and crying. His dad had gone down the street to visit. He'd be home any second, and he'd fix this somehow. He'd call the cops or something, get them out of the house, leave that black thing far behind. Maybe Mom was just hurt. People could get really hurt and still be fine. He'd only seen her for a few seconds. That thing was just some psycho in some costume. He'd probably run off as soon as he heard someone coming, and then it'd be okay. It'd be fine. He kept whispering this to himself, feet braced on the sink, right back against the door. He was still repeating it when the face pushed through the wood above him. He heard the crackle and looked up to see that hell face looking down, inches above his head. The floor under his feet suddenly felt sludgy and soft as he stared, the mouth splitting open to let a tongue as rotten and bloated as a dead fish roll free, and down, sliding down onto that horrified face like a syrup, burning even as he felt his legs sinking down and down, unable to even move really as that soft, slimy flesh burned like an acid into his face, feeling his nose cocked down, or cocked? Oh, no, I thought it was cocked like a gun. No, there's no guns. His nose cooked down. I took my glasses off, so now I can't really read. His nose cooked down. That's such a cooked down like an overused eraser, screaming just long enough to catch a few feet of that endless tongue in his mouth, gagging hard before the nerves died. Cock down. No, save him. It's just a rooster. It's just a rooster, I swear. Like Bacall, you know, like fucking bird. Chirp. Screaming just long enough to catch a few feet of that endless tongue in his mouth, gagging hard before the nerves died, starting to pass out as he felt the nightmare tasting his eyes. That's fucked. We're almost done with this. Like, you can see the bar, like, right on the side here. Drac awoke feeling like he'd been sleeping on a pile of rusty car parts. He sat up, twisting and trying to locate the source of the throbbing pain in his leg. That memory started to flood back, hitting like a freight train. Running across town, slamming through a crowd, seeing the withered, crumbling arm laying on the ground, screams, people running, the horrible black face sliding from the ground, eyes locked on his, parts firing, more screams, a withered hand reaching, gripping, pulling. Oh god, no. He got cocked down. He looked around in welling horror, pleading with his own brain to lie to him. The room was dark, dirty, low-ceilinged. Tufts of dirt and debris in the corners, the grayish paint peeling in ragged streamers, the stained ceiling and floor warped and lumpy. A doorway opened to a darkness, a vague, insistent noise sounding from far off. The light was dim, but it didn't seem to come from anywhere, seeming just a weak, omnipresent glow from a slightly green cast, like deep ocean water. Drac knew this room, even though he'd never been here. At least, one's very much like it. The old man liked to dump his new catches here before he found them. Drac rose quickly, hunching over to avoid a sagging bulge of ceiling. He barely wanted his shoes touching this place, let alone anything else. He winced, feeling a dull, empty ache in his leg, high in the calf. Probably where it grabbed him, and damned if he was going to check it. He limped a few steps, making sure it could bear weight, eyes seeping over every surface. He breathed slow, deeply, remembering the file, the brief. Time was subjective. He could have been out for seconds or weeks. It liked to play cat and mouse, tracking through its home, or playroom, or whatever the fuck it was. Space was endless, but sometimes people got out, or were released. Keep moving, don't hide, because it was God here and would know. He felt panic slithering around the edges of his brain and pushed it down, hard, face set and grim as he stepped out into the darkness beyond the doorway. Water time. Excuse me. Sippy jockey. Chicken jockey. The hall was long and broken, like a hospital hallway after an earthquake. No big holes, just twisted and tilted oddly. He creeped down, as close to a wall as he could get without touching it, feeling gritty plaster crunch under his feet. The noise was louder, the sound of high-pitched, monotonous crying. Yes, it was endless, but if you kept on the move, it seemed like 106 got confused, or lost track of things, and you could accidentally wander back into the world. He kept repeating the steps, the briefings in his head like a prayer, ignoring the part where 106 would typically hunt escapees forever. He took a right at the end of the hall, passing down another, then a left. Starting to move faster, ignoring the odd corroded twists of pipe and wire in some of the rooms he'd passed, or the suggestive soggy mounds of something. The crying kept getting louder, the high-pitched gurgling wail of a baby. Ignore it, keep moving. It called the shots. It could make the whole place sound like a dentist drill if it wanted. Jack pounded down the hall, nearly at a dead end, or nearly at a dead run, trying not to see the growing dampness of the walls, the changing texture of things, broken plaster over old greenish bricks, floor going from broken vinyl to concrete to dirt. He turned a corner, too fast. A gully patch of black causing his foot to skitter, nearly dropping him to his knees as he clutched the bare, wet brick wall. He looked out in the dim, mossy room, the sound of helpless, angry crying, very, very loud now. He froze, staring, half crouched and clutching the wall. It was standing in the middle of the room, a thick, ankle-deep puddle of black jelly at its feet. The old man was turning, slowly, rocking in slow side-to-side motions. The crying was coming from the thing in his arms. It was a torso, wrapped in masses of what looked like barbed wire. The wire threaded in and out of flesh. Some places looked like the bleeding skin had flowed from warm taffy over it. The ragged remains of the limbs twisted and stretched, every movement making the wires dig and tear more. It was hairless, the skin of its bare head and neck looking peeled and rotten. The face a mask of pain. The throat had been opened, carefully, twisted and held with wires. The baby crying was in fact this grown and mute torso, mutilated to make that pitiful, helpless wail. The old man was watching him, face turned, eyes locked to the man as he slowly tried to stand upright. Ignoring the hissing of his boots, trying not to think of what would have done that to a throat, to make it sound like a baby in agony, or where that pitiful torso's limbs had gone. It watched him, cracked teeth slightly parted, and slowly stopped its rocking. It dropped the wire-bound bundle, arms going limp at its sides as the mass of flesh and pain bounced off the ground, then rested face down in the mossy grime, sending up a new wave of protest between bubbly, sucking breaths. It turned to face him, arms dangling, body wrapped in what looked like some kind of shredded cloth of oozing black fabric. Drac ran, bolting like a scared deer, throwing training and conditioning to the wind in the mad, blind animal panic of escape. He screamed, panted, talked, laughed, anything to drown out the sound of the slow, stuttering steps lurking behind him. He ran and ran and ran, falling and hitting the ground like he'd been hit by a car, gasping and waiting for the end, muscles throbbing, and then they would start again, those soft, rustling footsteps, driving him on and on and on. He didn't know it, but he'd run for 4 days before the old man started taking chunks out of him. That's fucked. Recovery was in the pre-dawn hours with no sun or moon, and went shockingly smooth, all things considered. SCP-106 was found in the middle of a field, making pumpkins sag and burst by squeezing it or stepping on them. The team, a man short, was finally reinforced an hour later before they caught it, pushing it back into the recovery chamber with the big halogen sun guns, nearly blinding 2 of the recovery crew and their zeal to have the old man back under lock and key. It sat in the cell without a moment's attempt to try and escape. It sat and did nothing, head tilted, arms and legs limp. One MTF member stated that it looked sated and was told to shut up in an official capacity. Disappearances were glossed over, murders quieted and made unnewsworthy, urban legends seeded and caressed. Overall, it went well once the hell was over. Weeks later, an observation tech made a note in the day's log. SCP-106 was observed to suddenly produce a large handful of small white objects, later identified as teeth and finger bones, and set the pile on the floor. It then sorted these objects into what seemed random piles, later identified as separated by age of victim. It then stared at these items for several hours, then recollected them. The significance of this was considered unworthy of contemplation. That's terrifying. Like, actually terrifying. Oh, we have like 2 more things. Please don't be too long. Oh, these entries are long. I don't want to read this shit. What's this one? Okay, this one's not as long. Oh well. I said I'd be done after this. I gotta read them. 106 is legit some of the best internet horror, I think. I know, it's crazy. Like, this is my first time reading SCP entries, but I've played SCP Secret Laboratory, which is like a multiplayer SCP game, where you have players playing as D-Class, scientists, SCPs, and defensive forces and stuff like that. It's a really fun game. The SCPs have to try to kill everyone. The D-Class have to try to make it out, and if you make it out as a D-Class, you can return as a defense personnel. The scientists, same. So D-Class and scientists have the exact same goal, but the scientists have more clearance. And then the defense, well, there's like a defense and like a different like National Guard type thing, where one is trying to save the D-Class and scientists, and the other is trying to kill everything. So it's a really interesting game, and I really like it. And a lot of the time, the SCPs end up teaming with one of the like defense forces, and it's funny. Or you get them like escorting the D-Class and scientists out of the building, because it's silly. But you got like SCP-106, 093, NTF, and Chaos. Probably, it's been... Let me open Steam. When was the last time I played this game? Last played May 8th, 2019. That is so long ago. It's like 6 years ago. But, we should totally play that, Patry. We need to play that. But we need to get an actual team together so people don't say slurs. Anyway, back to this. She didn't hear it. Not at first. At this time of night, the labs were deserted. The whole Site 120 was practically empty. Corridors dim and silent. Offices shut. Experimental apparatus crouched in shadowy chambers. There were no anomalies contained on site, so the only people left in the compound were a couple of security staff and a 63-year-old researcher, hunched over a bunch full of notes and textbooks, a single desk lamp bright against the lab's enveloping darkness. Oh, we got Stark as well, let's go. We got 3 people, let's go. It sucks. You need like a lot of people to play, like 10 to 15 to actually play like a decent game, I think. But we can't play the like public servers because people will say slurs. 100%. Avengers, assemble! She had always been wrapped up in her work, her colleagues said. There was no one to go home to. She had been with the Foundation for many years, many late nights like this, engrossed in the calculations and correlations spread in front of her, and so she didn't hear the noise. Not when it started. A soft, crackling hiss from the far corner of the lab, a sound like wet leaves in a fire, like whispers from a dried-up throat, just at the edge of hearing. It wasn't until she breathed in the smell, faint but thick with rot, that she started from her work, turned, and noticed the sound. The researcher pulled herself down from her lab stool, the familiar stiffness in her hips an unwelcome reminder of the hours and years she'd been in the lab. Absently, she pushed her glasses back up and peered across the darkened room. The noise was still there. A few seconds of listening failed to resolve it into anything readily explainable. She had taken 4 steps across the lab when the lamp behind her blinked out. Swallowed in darkness, she froze. The noise had gone. Her breathing had grown rapid and shallow, and she forced 2 deeper breaths before taking out her phone and switching on the torch. After a moment's hesitation, she turned back to the workbench to see what had happened to the light. As the torch beam swung, the first thing she registered was that there was something different on her pile of work. Something foreign, dark, wet, bloody. Her brain caught up. It was a human kidney. complete with ureter, and a tangle of blood vessels. It glistened in the torchlight, a crimson stain seeping into the paper beneath it. Her throat grew tight. The noise started again. It was thicker somehow, moist. She looked over her shoulder, indecisive. Her brain was blank, reacting without thinking. 1,000 other choices pushed out by sheer impossibility of that noise. This mangled organ in front of her. Stay here or go there. Almost before she realized, she was walking cautiously across the shadowed room towards the source of the sound. The torch lit up the back wall of the lab. A corner behind the mass spectrometer. A black smear had spread across it, the paint and plaster bubbling and flaking in a slow roil. The whispering sizzle was louder, and the air was heavy with an oily stink of decay. Close to, she could see the surface of the wall had softened, sagging in wet bulges. She hesitated. The hand shot out from the wall faster than thought. Its fingers were broad and gray, sticky with black mucus, grabbing her forearm. Instantly, her lab coat started to melt, and as she yanked her arm away the sleeve tore off, disintegrating. The fingers snatched at her again, and she dropped her phone. As she stumbled backwards, the torch shone up from the floor, lighting the figure that pushed its way through the mottled, fleshy wall. It looked like an old man, decrepit and rotten. It was naked, its skin slick and shiny as pitch. Its flesh was withered and decomposing, with missing toes and misshapen feet. A distended gut protruding obscenely from beneath a narrow chest, arms spread wide in a mockery of greeting. Above a ruined throat, she saw a too-wide mouth locked in a rictus grin, and eyes. Oh God, those eyes. The thing emerging from the wall before her looked like a man, but its eyes were gray and flat like a shark's. The researcher took another 2 steps back, reaching behind her for something, anything solid to hold. Her breath caught in her throat. The old man stood still, dripping black foulness onto the floor as the tiles began liquefying beneath him. Her phone sank beneath the surface. The torch flickered out. In darkness, she ran. She was panting by the time she reached the lab doors. Ruining her age, the extra weight she carried, every exercise session postponed. As she turned to close the doors behind her, she could see that hideous figure pacing deliberately across the room. Something about its lack of hurry unnerved her deeply. She forced herself to keep running down the corridor, calling for the night guard, hoping he was close. Frank! I'm not yelling or anything, sorry guys. After the second turn, she saw him, halfway from the guard station, gun in his hand. What's wrong? Frank jogged up to her and she doubled over, spots in her vision. Frank, thank God, it's... Her chest was heaving, and she could barely speak. How could she describe what she'd just seen? Slow down, A. Take a second to... Frank tailed off. As she looked up to see his gaze fixed on the end of the dim corridor, she knew what he'd seen. The old man walked towards them, trailing a viscid ooze. When Frank trained the torch on him, his eyes shone avid and empty, 20 feet from them. Hey, stop now! Frank shouted. I will shoot you! The grinning cadaver kept coming, 15 feet, 12. Frank fired 3 shots, 2 hits to the chest. The old man stopped, gradually crumpling forward. The researcher let out a breath. The glistening corpse sank into the floor, swallowed by the slime it had generated. She felt sick with shock. What the fuck was that? Frank started towards the blackened floor, but she held his sleeve. Wait, I think it's some kind of acid. Her voice was hushed. Her throat felt raw. We need to call someone. Frank pulled out his radio, but paused, the thumb of the button. Not until I know what to report. This motherfucker is dumb as hell. Suddenly, she didn't want him to move away, not even a few feet. Please, she said, stepping into Frank's path. There's nothing like this on the database. There's nothing. We need an MTF. Hey, don't tell me my job, said Frank, sounding piqued. First I need to... No! She was gripping his sleeves. Frank, I know dimensional anomalies, and this is from one. I saw it step out of a wall. Frank tried to shrug her off, but pushed too hard. She fell awkwardly, a retch of pain from her ankle. Tears sprang to her eyes, and Frank was instantly regretful. Oh God, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. He cut off as a glob of black mucus landed on his radio, setting it fizzing. Frank dropped it like he had been stung and glanced upwards. The next drop landed in his right eye. The researcher scrambled backwards as Frank roared and clutched his face. She could hear the hiss as the corrosion ate at his eye socket from the inside. Then she saw that grinning face emerge from the dark patch on the ceiling, and the old man dropped onto Frank's back. One hand slid into the muscles of his shoulder like it was dough, and Frank's roar became a scream. As he crashed into the wall of the corridor, she saw the other hand sink into Frank's throat and tear, and the scream was abruptly cut off. Frank started to collapse into the wall as it darkened around him. The last thing she saw was those eyes, locked on hers as they sank back into the blackness. Empty eyes, but somehow full of promise. Her heart pounded, and the taste of bile was in her throat. She tried to stand, but she was lightheaded and her ankle was throbbing. She had to run. She had to run. Every second not running was death. Dragging herself up on a cabinet, she tried to think, eyes flickering between the ruined radio and the puckered bruises on the wall and the floor. Run? Where? Guard's office? The alarm? She forced herself forward, gasping at the pain in her foot. Her lungs burned. Every shadow in the half-lit hallway loomed like a threat. Not much further now. Don't look behind. Each step was a battle, trying to move faster to stop her leg from buckling. Forward momentum was the only thing keeping her upright. She rounded the last corner, saw the guard station at the end of the hall. It looked empty. She could make it. With a grunt of effort, she pushed herself to a final run, closing the final yards and crashing through the guard's room door. Her first step inside sank shin deep into the frothing muck that used to be the floor. She fell and her hands were caught too, skin burning as they were sucked deeper into the ground. Looking up, she could see the console with the alarm button, just out of reach, and she wailed in sick despair. It was the last sound she made before the world was consumed by night. Death did not come. She was submerged in a lake of pitch, but somehow the researcher could still breathe, could still think. Was she still falling? She couldn't tell. All feeling had vanished, her skin no longer stinging, although the blood still pounded in her ankle. She stayed there suspended for minutes, unsure of the passing of time, of what this meant. Then the gloom lightened, blurred, and resolved into tiled floor. The gray light showed her a room she didn't recognize, but which was somehow familiar. Dust, dead leaves, and scraps of metal were strewn across the floor, and one of the walls had buckled in on itself. She pulled herself over to the door and looked out in the dilapidated hallway, mold and rust covering the ceiling, and the floor contorted like a writhing snake. There were no lights, but the hall was lit by a gray-green glow, a sickly aurora, undulating sluggishly across every surface. She'd been right. It was a dimensional anomaly. Probably controlled by that thing. The researcher felt desperate. Probably it had made this place or had lived here for years, so it would know every inch. But if she had fallen into it, that meant there was a way out. She just had to keep moving, and she would find it. She limped into the corridor, clambering over collapsed furniture and wiping plaster dust from her hands. The familiarity of the place snatched at her thoughts, but she tried to ignore them. Keep going forward. Look for an exit. Don't think about what might be behind you. Don't think about Frank. Don't think about that grin, those eyes. A metallic buzzing grew louder, and she realized that it had been there since she arrived in this place. She tried to move faster, a gust of wind blowing around her. Fetid, I don't know what that means. Her heart was racing again. This place was familiar, but how? She needed to stop just for a moment. She grabbed at a door handle, relief flooding her when it opened. She walked into her old apartment and spun in confusion. This was impossible. The disarray of the halls was gone. Everything here was in its proper place. But nothing about this place was proper. She had left this apartment more than 30 years ago. The building had been torn down. The researcher sped across the room, the need to rest forgotten. Everything here was hers. Her books, her furniture. The window showed the same view. An incongruously bright day. How? She raced to the bedroom, her bed made, everything neatly put away. She opened the closet and the corpses fell out onto her. It was a mountain of decomposing limbs and organs, limp and slick. They slithered down at her under the weight of the pile, trailing gore. She retched at the deep, foul smell of putrescence, flailing wildly to pull herself free. A bloated hand pawed at her leg as it fell, and she felt something slippery and soft under her feet as she stood. This assemblage would have taken dozens of bodies, she thought, still gagging. Fatigue means like rotting, sickly smell. Is it pronounced fatigue? Like fatigue or like fetid? Like, I don't know. I don't know which one is pronounced. But it's something. The assemblage would have taken dozens of bodies, she thought, still gagging. As it slumped further, it exposed a face she recognized. Frank. Like, fetid. Fetid, okay. Nice. New word added to the dictionary. Yay! My vocabulary has evolved. Frank, a deep hole where his eye had been, and his neck was torn open, black jelly dripping from the flesh. Her eyes scanned the line of his body and saw his leg twisted viciously upwards, exposed bone protruding where the foot had been ripped off. She was trying to hold in a scream when she heard movement from the back of the closet. Without thinking, she ran. Behind her, the sounds of sinuli, I don't know. Still gagging. As it slumped further, it exposed a face she recognized. Oh, I know, I was already there. I'm reading back. Ah! Without thinking, she ran. Behind her, the sound... I need the scroll. That's what it is. Whatever limbs pulling themselves clear of the corroded wall. She bolted for the door to her apartment, ankle screaming at her. She could feel the old man enter the room, only a few steps back. The metallic buzz constricted around her as she emerged. Staggering down the hallway, realization overwhelmed her. There wasn't some old hospital or school. Her apartment had given her the answer. It was twisted, corrupted, but this was Site 120. She couldn't think about why that was. What it meant right now was that she might know a way out. She took another left turn, skidding on the wet floor and crashing her head into the opposite wall. Her ears rang. The footsteps behind her were louder, closer. She dragged herself onwards, her breath a whimper from the pain in her foot. One more corridor, and she would be back to the guardroom. She hoped like hell to that dimensional parallels held up. Or she hoped like hell that the dimensional parallels held up. The footsteps grew closer. She could hear the drip of ichor. I don't know. Her vision grew dark. The hall telescoped in front of her. A hand clutched at her back, her lab coat melting to tatters. The guardroom was just ahead. She was exhausted. She couldn't make it. The floor beneath her started to bubble. With a yell, she crashed through the guardroom doors again, pushing through the oily puddle behind them and surfacing in the real Site 120. The ghoul was still behind her. She fell hard on the console and slammed her hand down on the alarm. Klaxons blared, and the emergency lights flashed. She turned, pushing herself as far as she could into the corner of the console, but the old man had halted in the middle of the room. It was staring at the light. She heard a new noise, like a deep growl. Suddenly, she realized that the corpse before her had a lump of new flesh in its throat, bloody and ragged. Frank's throat. She realized when her stomach dropped. She looked again at the old man, seeing its misshapen carcass patched and scarred. The old man was still transfixed by the light, its growls built in intensity. Red. Well, you know. Her mouth went dry. The thing looked at her with its dead eyes, and it said like a sigh. Anna. She made no sound. Her mind was screaming. The old man took a step towards her. Another step. 5 years, 11 months, 21 days, and 25 more years after that, falling apart, rebuilding itself, rebuilding its world for her. I don't want to read this too, I'm going to be honest. It held up its left hand. She could see the mark where the ring had been. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The old man reached towards her, tenderly holding her cheek, her skin puckered and liquefied, flesh dripping from her face. It brought its grinning mouth close to hers and kissed her. Her teeth became hot wax, fusing and corroding. She screamed then. The old man pressed his kiss harder into her open mouth, his swollen gray tongue melting hers and filling her throat with molten muscle and caustic jelly. The last thing she felt was the weight of the two of them, sinking into the floor, locked in a final, burning embrace. I kind of want to see how long this one is. Oh, this one's oh, no. There's so much. Yeah, fuck that, no. I'm not reading that one. Oh, wait, that's 3001. I think I have this somewhere in here. No, I have 6001 and 3043. Man. It's a pocket dimension. That's what this is, okay? And that was this one. This one's short, so we're almost there. We spent like an hour just on SCP-106, by the way. Sometimes, when he closed his withered eyelids, the old man could see the prairies of his youth, the moonlight grasses, feel and hear the gentle whiskers of the wind against his flesh, but that had been long ago, hadn't it? Sometimes when he dreamed, he would forget that he was old and leap through those fields, shrieking with an elemental joy of existence. There were others there, young, like he was in the dream, their faces blurry, but so heartbreakingly familiar. It felt wrong to have forgotten them. Then he would wake again and see the corroded metal walls of his prison. Technically, he was not bound in this cell. He could leave at any time. He just had to get up and walk out. But beyond, the world had changed into something lunatic, too bright, too complex, as though it had been designed to confuse and daze him. Burning white lights, random surfaces at dizzying intervals, so that the air seemed to drown or choke him. It had not been this bad when they had first brought him to this dismal place. Or perhaps it was he who had changed, his facilities dispensing themselves into suffocating walls. So here he stayed. He would try to take refuge in fantasy, losing the present as he had lost so much of the past. But those open prairies were becoming harder and harder to call up of his own volition. Instead, he found himself walking endless, twisting corridors, doors sagging with decay, and dark, damp mold dripping from the ceiling. He wondered whether it was the ruin of his own mind he was imagining. He'd been young once, he thought. He remembered his mother and siblings, though in his mind they had become mixed with his children, and how they had played amongst the trees and in the open prairies. He'd been taught how to hunt. In those days, prey had been plentiful. No, not plentiful, he thought, but easier to catch. His mother had brought him an old, tattered one alive to show him how to hunt, and he and his brothers and sisters batted and clawed at it until it shuddered and expired. Did it think, he wondered? Did it feel? Did it understand it was old and could no longer defend itself? Even then, his tribe had not been large, not even more than 20. In those days, the prey were different. Their bones were long and thick. They had ridges over their eyes, and they wore the skins of other animals. Their teeth and claws were barely a threat to the long arms of his tribe, but sometimes they had other teeth made of stone they could hold in their hands, sharp, glittering things that tore your flesh. Then the prey had changed. A smaller, scrawnier sort of prey, with more stone teeth than the others. so that at first the tribe still hunted the boneheads. The thinner prey hunted the boneheads too, though not for food. And between them, the supply dried up. This new sort of prey was harder to hunt and catch, even back then. They sealed themselves away in burrows which gave way to hives, with the horrible crisscrossing branches exactly perpendicular to each other, that made his tribe's eyes water and their stomachs heave when they looked at them. And when they had the burning light, like lightning but contained in a bundle of sticks. Still, they had prospered. He had found a mate. He found that if he tried hard, he could recall the curves of her body as they lay together, and had children who ran wildly over the plains like he had. But the prey had grown even further entrenched, and it seemed the more the prey swarmed together, the harder it was to get inside. To skip over into the twilight world that let them move through the walls and the floors of their hives. They ringed their hives with running water. The first time he burrowed into that, he remembered the mind-consuming movement, a taste of what the whole world would become. Had he been captured? He thought for a moment that he could no longer remember, until the outlines of a narrative suggested themselves to his mind. Was it true? Who could tell? Tired. How much longer is this? We're kind of close. He had been alone, perhaps for decades, last member of his tribe. He could no longer recall whether it had been his mate or one of his offspring, had vanished one day like all the rest. He sometimes entertained himself with the thought that she was still alive, then wondered what that meant. He would no longer wish this disintegration, this incomprehensible confinement on her, or any member of his tribe. He thought he could remember waking one day and feeling hungry, more hungry than he'd ever felt in his whole existence. He had aroused himself from near hibernation in the tree where he lived and descended. The prey's hive nestled in the shadow of a hill on the far side of the lake, the old man remembering being far larger in his childhood. The prey drank it, he had realized one day long ago, and in their teeming thousands depleted it. When it was dry, the prey would be gone. And then what would he do? He approached, moving over and through earth they had pockmarked with their tall gold seed, leeching the life out of it. The hive was bigger than he remembered, and more dazzling. In luminescence, the prey proceeded to light their way through the night that had once belonged to his tribe, catching off big, flat, reflective surfaces that seemed profoundly unnatural. Just one, he thought. He just needed one of them. Then he could sleep again. He'd find one of the caves the prey made under their hives and sleep. He shivered as he passed through cold, yellow light. Here, at the edge of the hive, they still had open areas around each burrow, though they had grazed the grass so thoroughly there was almost nothing left. He remembered seeing one of them, small, tender in his mind's eye, and the old man drooled. He had watched it for days, waiting for a moment when it left the safety of the pack. These days, precious few moments, they guarded their young so fiercely. Then, while it was running near its burrow, he took it, long arms closing around it and fingers searing into its flesh. A twist practiced many, many times, and it was gone. He could not wait to hide. His hunger was too severe. His remaining teeth were already gnawing at the soft tissues of its nose and ears, even as he hugged the small body to him and shrank into the shadows of the tree line. Then the light, then the pain. The prey had found him hours later, eating what was left of the infant, and shone their brilliant lights in his eyes. Blows fell on the old man, crushing him. He felt something pop in his arm. Something shining was looped between his wrist and tree, and they went away. He tried to retreat to the fields in his mind, but the cold iron kept him there. He'd found a way to escape it later, but that was after they put him in the cell at the center of the maze. Then, the white coats had come and taken him away, and the lights had grown brighter and the pain more intense. No food, no food. He was dying, he thought, distantly starving one day at a time. When he had been young, he had seen an old man die of starvation. He had killed another member of the tribe, and no one would share their food with him. His limbs had hollowed out, and his skin had become like dried leaf. For a long time, he'd hoped that others of his kind would come and find him, save him from this humiliation, but they would not relieve his hunger, he knew. They would not share their food with him. He had become that old man, and he had committed sin. He could not remember the reason he had fought the larger male. Times had become hard and prey scarce, and the other male had failed the tribe. It had occurred to him later that the older male might have been his father. The older man remembered the onlookers, faces blurred and shifting, watching as he pummeled the larger male to the floor and put his hand in the other's skull and moved his fingers until there was no life in there anymore. But he had done no better, and his people had grown thinner and thinner and left him, one by one, to find richer hunting grounds elsewhere. Now he was alone, and as the years went by in the mental cell, he began to think an awful thought. I am the last. Once these bewildering creatures in white coats would not have confused him. His mind would have been clean and sharp, and he would have navigated the horrible labyrinth outside his cell. Once, but not now. Now he wandered alone in the crumbling steel darkness, the pain from his stomach overwhelming what was left of him. I've lost everything, he thought. I've lost everything. He twitched as he realized that in his distress he had drifted further from his cell than he had ever been before. Those decayed corridors of mind fell behind him, and he found himself in what he thought was the waking world, but nothing like the maze he had perceived before. Here the air was so fresh his old lungs exhaled suddenly, as though he had been submerged in ice. He was in a small, tunnel-like space, like the burrows of foxes or badgers, but hard-cornered in metal in the fashion of the prey. Below him were slats of light, and he realized dimly that through them he could see the world of the white coats, clean and clinical. But there was something wrong. Red lights were wheeling back and forth, hypnotically. The white coats were running, rushing away to be replaced by others with blue hard hats and determined expressions. Then he smelled it, the scent of injured prey, so rich, so replete in memory, but so harrowingly distant that he wondered if he imagined it, like so much else. But no, there it was again. The old man stirred long black limbs and raised himself up as far as he could, his ragged nostrils sucking in the fresh, cold air, and his ears, dulled as they were, picked up that long-forgotten cry, the gibbering assemblage of syllables, almost human, as a prey called out in pain and fear. The dribble came thickly down his withered chin, and dry old eyes moistened again as he remembered marrow and blood soaking into pink, juicy meat, just like it had been in the old days. No doubt the white coats would take this morsel from him as they had taken it away before. He didn't care. There was not enough left for the old man to care. He could only move down through the slats towards the light. The old man came, drip, drip, dripping down the hall. And I believe that is the end of SCP-106. We typically begin to gravitate toward the word victim within 10 to 15. That's what it goes over. It goes over, yeah. I had a feeling it went over this funny guy. But now we know. Alrighty. Hold, please. Okay. It's me. I'm back. Wahoo. I was taking off the radio. I had to get back on the mic, get off the walkie-talkie. Yes, yes. We don't need the glasses anymore. Get those out of here. There we go. And bum. Thank you for watching. Now, I don't know if there's anyone live for me to raid. I'm unsure. I am unsure. Let's hop on over to the twitch.tv. No, not really. But I'm EP, so I am just going to end stream here. Thank you guys for staying and listening. I hope me reading SCP entries was entertaining or something good to have on in the background. It's always fun. But your boy wants to go to sleep now and think, I'm EP. I'm an EP boy. I got a lot of stuff to do all the time. Yes. Thank you for coming to the VTuber anniversary of yours truly. Here's to another, year of, fun. EP fun. We love fun. But stream with Adam Friday. We're gonna be beating Millennia. She fell down the well and we're gonna get her out and then beat her up. And then we're done with Elden Ring. We're done. And then Sunday, hopefully, me and Degen finish Carry the Glass. Hopefully we finish it. But with that being said, hope to see you guys on the next stream. Bye-bye.